NBC Sports presents the 1985 World Series. From Busch Stadium in St. Louis, Game 5, the Kansas City Royals and the St. Louis Cardinals. Last night, a masterpiece by left-hander John Tudor. His second series victory, a 5-hit shutout. He struck George Brett out twice. And the key men offensively, Tito Landrum and Willie McGee. This second-inning homer by Landrum gave St. Louis a 1-0 lead. And this third-inning shot by McGee made it 2-0. The Cards won the game 3-0, and tonight they try to win the World Series. Hello again, everyone. Al Michaels in St. Louis, and welcome to Game 5. And as you know, the Kansas City Royals trying to make history, trying to become the first team ever to lose the first two at home and then come back to win the World Series. But they'd like some recent history to repeat, the recent history of the American League Championship Series when they were down 2-0, 3-1, and came back to beat Toronto. St. Louis, meanwhile, trying to make this the third straight 5-game World Series. Meanwhile, no further introduction necessary for Mr. Tito Landrum. Tito, we put together a montage of your highlights, and let's go back Saturday night, Game 1, fourth inning, as you double to right field.
Well, yes, sir. You know, we're trying to learn a little bit about their pitching staff, and right here, he's going to throw a ball on the outside part of the plate, and I'm going to go well with it to right field. Darryl Motley's out there. He gets the ball well, but my first base coach is telling me go for 2, and here he makes an excellent throw, a little high. If he's on the money, he might get me.
Got a very key defensive play coming up here with Wilson at the plate, a chance for the Royals to retake the lead this running catch.
Good scouting report by our scouts. They're telling us to play him shallow and down the left field line. I get there and make the running catch.
Then this throw in the 7th inning of Game 2 to cut down Biancalana.
Al, the ball takes a good hop to me. I get good mechanics on the ball. Darryl does a fantastic job of getting back to touch Biancalana.
Key hit right here in the 9th inning to right field to keep that rally going.
Just trying to keep the rally going. Believe me, the pitch is on the outside corner. I'm trying to get wood on the ball. I barely just missed that right field line, and thank goodness it's a double. We get another chance.
Then last night, in a park in which it's tough to hit an opposite field home run, this
surprised me and everybody around. Believe me, I hit the ball. I knew I had hit it well. It was on the outside part of the plate. I inside out of the ball. It's heading for the right field foul pole. It stays in, and I'm thankful for that.
People love to dream about situations like this. You're having a tremendous World Series. In your wildest imagination beforehand, did you ever think it could turn out like this?
Believe me, I've dreamed about it, but never believed it would become in reality. I think every ball player wants to play in a World Series and, of course, do very well in it. And first of all, I didn't think I would be in the situation that I'm in, and I'm just happy to respond to it.
We played a clip last night, and I have to ask you, in light of what's taken place in postseason, the exact same question. Would you rather be an everyday player with a mediocre team or a role player here?
A role player with this ball club, because I think down the road I see a couple more division championships and possibly World Series. Certainly I do want to play every day. That's in the forefront of my mind. But right now I'm just very happy to be here and be a part of this ball club.
Continued success to you.
Thank you very much, Al.
That's Tito Landrum, and we'll be back at Busch Stadium in St. Louis after this. Okay, let's turn now to Reggie Jackson. We mentioned last night we can assume the Royals have much the better as far as the pitching matchup is concerned. How significant is that this evening?
Well, yeah, when you talk about who's got the better pitcher and you say it's significant that the Royals have the advantage, that's because Bob Force, who's pitching tonight for the St. Louis Cardinals, is just about on what you might call a 10-day rotation. He pitched October the 4th, he pitched October the 14th, now it's October the 24th, and he's pitching in the 5th, or what could be the deciding game for the St. Louis Cardinals. Danny Jackson on a regular rotation. His last 3 times out, he's been exceptional. 10 shutout innings in the National League Championships, in the American League Championship playoffs. And, of course, he pitched very well the other night, the first game of the World Series against the St. Louis Cardinals. He only gave up 7 hits and 4 hits, rather, in 7 innings and only 2 runs. You know, the attitudes here, Al, the ball clubs, to me, are going to make a difference, or could be a deciding difference tonight. The St. Louis Cardinals are a very, very relaxed ball club. Of course, they have a chance to clinch it tonight. And, of course, the Kansas City Royals. I walked into their clubhouse, and George Brett said to me, he said, you know, Reggie, we're a young ball club. but we're not an immature ball club. We are a mature ball club. Well, what they need to do is have the offense come up and mature.
Well, Reggie, it's easy to say the old cliche, you got to play them one at a time, and that's the way the Royals will play them, of course, but they have to win 3 in a row. What's the feeling in a clubhouse with a team that's down 3-1?
Well, what you need when you are behind like this, it has been done in the past. Teams have come from behind from a 3-1 deficit, but those teams, the 68 Detroit Tigers, the 58 Yankees, and the 1979 Pittsburgh Pirates had players on it like Willie Stargell, Dave Parker, Bill Madlock. The 68 Tigers had Norm Cash, Jim Northrup, and people like Bill Freehan, Al Kaline. Of course, the Yankees had Mickey Mantle and Hank Bauer and a host of others. The Kansas City Royals have got to come up with some offense. I know we've talked about that before. They scored only 9 runs. There have only been 20 runs scored in the entire World Series so far, and they've only hit 1 home run, and 6 of those 9 runs have come in 1 ball game. They've got to come up with some boom out of the bat, some long ball, rather than some snap, crackle, and pop.
All right, Danny Jackson throwing in the bullpen as we approach the start of Game 5, and right now let's join the PA announcer, John Hewlett.
Color guard for tonight's World Series game. Please direct your attention to the color guard near the home plate area, representing the Gateway Battalion of the United States Marine Corps. And now, to honor America, baseball is proud to present one of America's outstanding singing groups, Larry Gatlin and the Gatlin Brothers, here to sing our national anthem. Welcome Larry, Steve, and Rudy Gatlin.
Oh, say can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the
We'll return with ABC's exclusive presentation of the 1985 World Series after this message and a word from our local stations. No top coach tonight either. It was almost 80 degrees in St. Louis today, and it's 70 right now at game time at Busch Stadium as we get set for World Series Game 5. Al Michaels again from St. Louis. I've heard some people say this is a mismatch because the Cardinals were favored 2-1 and lead in games 3-1. Think about this, though. In the 9th inning in Game 2 the other night, Willie McGee hits that little pop foul that just winds up in the dugout 2 feet closer to the playing surface. Balboni catches it. Cards go out 1-2-3. This series is tied at 2 games apiece, and arguably Kansas City has the edge. If, and all the rest. The reality is the Cardinals lead 3-1 as we go into Game 5. Let me turn to Jim Palmer now. You were on the last team that led 3-1 and lost in 1979. So what's the attitude in the Cardinal clubhouse right now?
Well, I think they're confident, but they're not overconfident. I mean, what it comes down to is all they have to do is win 1 out of the next 3 games and they'll win a world championship. In 1979, we won Friday night by 8-4, then 9-6. We went out on Sunday expected to win, and we got outpitched and, more importantly, out-hit the rest of the series. Actually, when you go down on the field and you talk to the Cardinals, they'd like to win tonight, but they know they have Danny Cox on Saturday if needed. He won 18 games, and they have the guy that pitched the masterpiece last night, John Tudor, to go on Sunday. And I think another thing that makes them a little bit confident is the fact that they've seen Danny Jackson and they know how he throws, and they feel they're going to score more runs tonight.
Let's talk about Dick Hauser. How do you manage a game when you know you can't lose a game?
Well, Danny Jackson and staff, he is not going to put Danny Jackson in a position where he has a big inning. He hopes that he will pitch like he did in the first ball game, but you will see him go to the bullpen early because he cannot afford to lose.
All right, so Kansas City has to win the world title, win 3 in a row. St. Louis just has to win 1 out of 3, and as we turn to Tim McCarver, I'm simply amazed by the resourcefulness that we've seen during the postseason, during the whole season from this Cardinal ball club.
Well, I guess it's best said when they talk about baseball being a team game played by individuals. Baseball is a game where the successful teams are picked up by each other, and the Cardinals, of course, have done that all season long. Joaquin Andujar off to a fast start while John Tudor lost 7 of his first 8, and Tudor had a strong second half. And, of course, Joaquin Andujar did not have a strong second half. Tommy Herr, a strong first half. Willie McGee picked him up all through the season, batting .353 and leading the league. Jack Clark went down, and, of course, Cesar Cedeno came on to have a super September. And here in the World Series, Vince Coleman down, and who has emerged as one of the stars, Tito Landrum. So the Cardinals have had a great support cast all year long, and that's really what Bob Forsch is going to have tonight. I talked to Whitey Herzog before the game, and he said if he gets Bob Forsch through 3 innings, maybe 4, just like in the National League Championship Series game against the Dodgers, then he will be satisfied with Forsch.
Leave a lot of space in that number 9 slot on your scorecard tonight. Right now, let's go to the PA announcer, John Hewlett.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is fitting in this All-Missouri World Series that the first ball will be thrown tonight by the senior senator from Missouri, Senator Tom Eagleton. Senator Eagleton has served in the United States Senate for 17 years and has announced his retirement after the current session of Congress. Major League Baseball, the Cardinals, and the Royals, thank you, Senator Eagleton, for all you've done for the country, the state, and the sport.
We're ready. Game 5 of the 1985 World Series coming right up. The Kansas City lineup, not much change. Lonnie Smith, of course, leads things off in left field, and then Willie Wilson will be in center. The top of the lineup has been doing its job. George Brett, 1 for 4 last night against Tudor. Frank White, the star of Game 3. Then they move Pat Sheridan into the 5 spot in right field. Move Steve Balboni from 7 up to 6. Jim Sundberg drops down to the number 7 spot. The shortstop is Buddy Biancalana. And the pitcher, of course, is Danny Jackson, who started Game 1. Cardinals defensively, the outfield, Landrum, McGee, and Cedeno. Infield of Pendleton, Smith, Herr, and Clark. Nieto back of the plate. Forsch on the mound. Manager Whitey Herzog of the St. Louis Cardinals. Here were his thoughts earlier.
Well, we're in a good position, but by the same token, we know they were down 3-1 against Toronto, which was a very good ball club, and I'm a little bit worried about our ball club not hitting. We're not really scoring runs. I don't know whether their pitching's that's great or we just haven't been able to do much with the bat. And thank God for John Tudor and a great performance by Cox in the second game, or we could really be in trouble. But yeah, we're in a heck of a position going into tonight's ball game. We're playing at home, and we've got the bullpen rested. Now we've got to hope we can get some runs to get out in front.
Naturally, the Wizard of Oz making his entrance about 60 seconds ago. What he hopes will be the final backflip of the year. And the crowd gave him about a 9.6 on that. So Ozzie Smith takes his position. The Cardinals are out there defensively. As a matter of fact, we have to change it. 9.5, and Coleman gives him an 11. So that's a 10.25 for Ozzie Smith, which is off the scale. But who's to dispute it? Anyway, the umpires, the American League, John Shulock back of the plate, Jim Quick of the National at first, Don Dinkinger at second, Billy Williams at third, Jim McKean, American, down the line at left, Bob Engel, who was behind the plate last night, down the line in right. Bob Forsch has been around quite a while, made his Cardinal debut in 1974. Tim McCarver, in fact, caught his first game in 74, and he has spent his entire career with St. Louis. He was one of those of a rare breed, a 38th round draft choice back in June of 1968, and he spent his entire career, minors and majors, with the Cardinal organization.
That was a game in which I called the wrong pitches again. Bob Forsch lost 2-1. He pitched 6 1/3, and Pete Rose hit a 3-0 pitch out of the ballpark to have the game-winning RBI in that ball game. He has certainly done well since, however.
And now he'll try to wrap up a world title for St. Louis. So here we go, Game 5, gorgeous night after a spring-like day, and Lonnie Smith taking some time before he settles in, and Forsch says, now I'll make you wait for me. A little bit of the same thing happened last night as they tried to get Tudor out of rhythm early. It didn't work. So here we go. Bob Forsch ready to start Game 5, and Smith fouls it straight back. 0-1. Smith, Wilson, and Brett.
Excuse me, Al, the key to Bob Forsch, when I talked to him, he talked to Whitey Herzog, and he says, well, he'll be great because he needs the extra rest. And then I talked to Bob, and he said, I'm a sinker ball pitcher. Let's see what happens the first 2 innings. Because if I don't get the ball down, I may not be around in the first 2 innings. Not overpowering. 85, 88 mile per hour fastball. The average Major League fastball is right around 84. Slider and a forkball to go with it. It's got to be, really, it's got to be on the corners. And with the ball down in the strike zone.
0-2 to Lonnie Smith is in the dirt. Forsch is one of only 2 active pitchers with more than 1 no-hitter as you look at the teams trailing under like circumstances that have come from behind to win the World Series. The last to do it, Pittsburgh in '79. And the 1-2 pitch is inside. Forsch has pitched 2 no-hitters in the majors, 2 more in the minors, and his brother Ken with California also has a no-hitter. They're the only brother combination. In the air to right field and curling foul, and it's still 2 balls and 2 strikes. Forsch used to have, and I say that qualifying, very good control, and the reason this year that his walk rate would be up would simply be the inactivity.
Exactly. Well, he pitched in 34 games, 19 starts and 14 in relief. And as I think Reggie alluded to, 10 days between starts, you just wonder what his control is going to be like.
Half swing foul, still 2-2.
Coupled with the fact that he is still somewhat, a year after an operation to his lower back, still in a recuperative period. He underwent surgery to relieve pressure on a decompressed nerve in June of last year. So if he's up in the strike zone, there are other reasons also.
3-2 the count. Forsch from Sacramento, California, 6'3", 215-pounder. 35 years old, and Lonnie Smith starts things with a base hit to left field. So Smith 6 for 17, having a good series, and Willie Wilson is the batter.
Well, a 3-2 pitch right down Broadway, and he finds a little gap in the infield. Even had Ozzie Smith gotten to that ball, no way he throws out his former teammate.
Now Willie Wilson is the batter. The switch hitter, his figure of 278 was second on the club amongst the regulars, second only to naturally Brett, who had 335. And again, worth pointing out that the paucity of runs, that the Royals were next to last in team average this season in the American League. Outside, 1-0. Lonnie Smith had 40 steals this season as a Royal, and add the 12 he had as a Cardinal before the May trade. That's 52. Takes a very conservative lead, and Wilson hits it foul to the left. 1-1.
You'll notice that stiff left leg of Bob Forsch when Jim Codd, who was the pitching coach of the Cincinnati Reds this past year, was a member of the Cardinals back in '82. He worked with Bob Forsch on that move, and he felt that keeping a straight left leg could have a better chance to throw over to first base, be much quicker.
Ahead now, 1 ball and 2 strikes to count.
Cincinnati Reds had some kind of year this year.
That man may win Manager of the Year, Mr. Rose.
Give Mr. Cott some credit, who was his pitching coach. Of course, I understand that he has resigned and is looking to getting into the broadcasting.
Smith running, and it's hitting the left field for a base hit, and sharply enough so that Lonnie still has to stop at second. So a promising beginning for the Royals as Smith and Wilson single, and Brett is the batter.
Batting third, number
And
5.
as Tim mentioned, it will not take long for the bullpen to get active, and the first man who will probably come up in the pen will either be Horton or Campbell.
Lonnie Smith running on the play, I think went for the decoy at second base. Now what happens when a runner goes to second and is running on the play and goes for the decoy? The shortstop or second baseman that's covering acts as though there's a play on him at second base. That prevents the wide turn, therefore he couldn't go to third on the play.
Brett hits it down the line, but it's curling foul, and the count is 0-1. This is one of those first and second no-out situations when you can guarantee the batter will not be bunting. Absolutely.
Another guarantee is because of Smith and Wilson being on, they have to somewhat pitch to Brett. By that I don't mean they were going to throw it down the middle of the plate, but this is what Kansas City has wanted all series long. Now they have their wish.
Brett hits it in the air to left center field. A spacious ballpark, and so room there for Landrum. Smith is tagging at second, and so is Wilson, and the throw will come to second after some hesitation, and both men move up. So Landrum probably being guided, I would think, orally by McGee, who came into the area. Looked like he thought about third at first and then went to second, and too late as both men move up on the fly ball.
Lonnie Smith did an interesting thing when he was tagging at second. He stayed off the base about a foot until Landrum caught the ball, went back with his right foot and took off. And I think that confused Landrum when he looked up, and that confusion also caused Willie Wilson to go to second.
Runners at second and third. Infield plays back, and White takes low for a ball, and the count is 1-0.
Watch Lonnie Smith. Now he's off the base like he's not tagging. Now, boom, he's gone. And I think that hesitation right there gave Landrum a false sense of security.
And created the hesitation and meant that Wilson could scoot into second. So Smith at third. Wilson at second. One out in the count. 2 balls and no strikes on White with first base open, and Sheridan on deck, a left-handed batter. Good one.
It does not appear that Mr. Forsch is getting the ball down. Almost every pitch is up in the strike zone, and as we said, he cannot be effective there.
2-1 is just off the plate. 3-1. Forsch wanted that call. Again, it's an American League umpire back of the plate, a man who has not seen Forsch pitch since he spent his entire career in the National. It's John Shulock of the American.
Roommate in the minor leagues, a man that used to catch for me, Rick Dempsey.
Grounded to the left side. It will score a run. Ozzie Smith throws to first for the out, and they concede the run with the infield back. So Kansas City takes a 1-0 lead on Frank White's RBI ground out. Since the ball was hit in front of Willie Wilson, he had to stay at second base. 1-0 Kansas City with 2 down now. Wilson at second, and Sheridan coming up. He's 1 for 10 in the World Series. As you know by now, having watched Kansas City in 12 postseason games, the right field platoon, Motley plays against the lefties, Sheridan against the righties. And Sheridan, who had 2 home runs in the championship series and also bunted his way on, trying to pick up Wilson. And Sheridan backing out. Again, Nieto, who caught last night, is back of the plate after Porter caught the first 3. This is the 4th time in the 5 games that the Royals have taken the lead. Again, just missing. That's twice now Forsch has not gotten a call on an outside corner pitch.
He's got to get those pitches. Not saying that those balls are strikes, but if he doesn't get those pitches, that guides him into the middle of the plate, and he can't pitch there.
Well off that time, and the count is 3-0 with Balboni on deck. crowd getting a little restless. There was a buoyant enthusiasm as this game started. There's Whitey Herzog, and then it became a little quieter with Smith's single, and a little mumbling going on right now. 3-1. And now a mock cheer. Balboni on deck. 3-1 to Sheridan. Fouled back, and the count is 3-2.
Well, Tim, it's a situation when you're out on the mound, you don't want to make what you would call a good pitch for Sheridan to hit with first base open with Balboni coming up. But on the other hand, if you pitch around Sheridan, Balboni, 36 home runs could put you right out of the ball game.
And also, Sheridan has seen a ton of fastballs in a row. When a hitter sees a lot of fastballs in a row, they're much easier to gauge. So I would be a bit surprised to see Forsh and Nieto maybe go to a breaking ball right here.
Looks like he wants it inside, but Nieto sets it up outside, and he gets him swinging. So we went 3-0 and came back to get him. Kansas City gets a run in the first as the Royals take the early lead. Cardinal lineup tonight has Willie McGee leading things off. And then as we turn the page, Ozzie Smith at shortstop batting second. The switch hitter, Tommy Herr. The cleanup man, Jack Clark, 4 for 14 in the series. He needs no introduction. Cesar Cedeno is in right field, batting sixth. Terry Pendleton, the switch hitting third baseman, having a pretty quiet, good series. Tom Nieto is the catcher. And there's Forge with Kansas City leading 1-0. Defensively, you look at the Royals line, and we heard from Herzog earlier. Now let's hear from Dick Hauser.
Confident. We've got Danny Jackson going for us tonight. I think all our players understand we're going to get this thing done with good pitching. Danny Jackson's been an outstanding pitcher the last couple of weeks. We expect him to, the players expect it, I expect it. If he can pitch like he did in Kansas City, that should be good enough to win tonight's ball game.
Certainly would be good enough if he could pitch the way he did in the playoffs when he shut Toronto out. That's all he'd have to do tonight. We'd be back in Kansas City. We were talking about Nieto, and I thought he had signaled inside, Tim. We have it replayed here. Pitched it into the top of the first.
Watch him bounce inside and then go outside. Now he gets back up and goes outside. Jim Palmer had an excellent point. He said they're probably working opposite to the direction that they gave. Nieto at that time gave inside and then ended up outside.
Well, the reason for that, Al, is with a runner on second base, he will sometimes flash location to the hitter. If you see a guy put a fastball down and go inside, the hitter will know because the base runner might tell him. So there, it looked like they're just kind of reversing it, trying to confuse both the runner and the hitter.
So here we go with Jackson facing McGee in the bottom of the first inning. Fouled at the plate, and automatically right off the bat, Sundberg is in pain.
How about that? The first pitch of the night. Those foul tips come in bunches too. Usually 2 or 3 follow. It seems. Boy, this one smarts. The left foot right on the toe. You know, for years they were talking about getting hard-toed shoes for catchers, but obviously that impedes squatting like Sundberg is doing right there. And of course you can't run, but catchers can't run anyway, right?
Well, he shakes it off, hopes it's not an omen, and the count is 0-1 on Willie McGee. Catchers can run. John Wathan. 0-1 pitch. Foul back, and the count is 0-2. Jackson, a 24th round draft choice, so you have a couple of guys going tonight talking about Forsh in the 38th round who either escaped the scouts or were late bloomers. Fouled away, still 0-2.
John Wathan has the major league record for stolen bases by a catcher. He had 36 for the Kansas City Royals back in 1982. So my apologies to John Wathan, president of the Speedy Catchers Fraternity.
Population about 3. Lifted, foul, and back out of play. Still 0-2.
you said, Al, it's very unusual that a pitcher with Danny Jackson's arm, and we're talking about a guy with a 93-mile-per-hour fastball and a hard slider, would go that late in the draft. Normally, a club that drafts down towards the bottom, but the only thing available are pitchers with good arms.
Is a half swing back to Jackson, over to Balboni, one away. So McGee got fooled, and Danny Jackson records the first out here in the bottom of the first inning.
Batting second, number 1.
Ozzie Smith
Shortstop, Ozzie
is
Smith.
1 for 13 in the World Series. So the man who batted .276 during the regular year and had the sensational championship series, sort of quiet offensively here in the World Series. Switch hitter. It's the better side of the plate for Ozzie this year, 302. Brett is even with a bag at third, and Biancalana just about normal depth at shortstop on the left side. Still 0-2. Royals leading 1-0 in Game 5 on a single by Smith, a single by Wilson. A fly ball by Brett deep enough to get Smith to third, which turned out to be important. White grounding out and scoring Lonnie. To center, Wilson got fooled on it a little bit, but a lot of time. It's a lazy fly ball as Willie went back and comes in to take care of Smith. And with 2 down, Tommy Herr is the batter.
Danny Jackson's doing exactly what he did in Game 1, which is staying right in on side on those right-handers. Last night, Willie McGee jumped on a slider that Bud Black hit it in the second deck. First pitch of the game, what does Danny Jackson come back with? A slider. So he obviously has confidence in his ability level, and as Dick Hauser said, he thinks they're going to win because Danny Jackson's going to pitch well, and they're going to score more runs off force than Jackson.
1-0 the count. Two out of the bases empty. Tommy Herr had an MVP-type first half of the season. Tailed some in the second, but still wound up at 3-0-2. Chases it, and the count 1 ball and 1 strike. Tommy Herr was here in 1982, so he's seeking another ring.
Danny Jackson's slider serves as the illusion of the strike. He makes the right-handed hitters especially commit too early. That's what Willie McGee, that ball he grounded back to Jackson, that was the same pitch.
That's looped down the line, and it's trouble, and it's a fair ball. Bouncing into the bullpen, and bouncing, in fact, out of play. So it's a ground rule double. A 2-out double by Herr in the first inning.
Overhead look of a fastball right off the fist. Not hit hard, but right on the line. Tough to defense that type of hit.
That is the 6th postseason double, postseason meaning the league playoffs and World Series, for Tommy Herr, who is up amongst the league leaders in doubles this year anyway. Jack Clark now with 2 out. Rips it toward the gap in right center field, and this game is tied as it bounces up against the fence. Herr comes in to score. Clark has a double. It's 1-1.
Luxury here pitching around Clark because you have Tito Landrum, the leading hitter in the series, on deck. Jack Clark, a first ball fastball hitter. That's one thing in those scouting reports that used to get me as a pitcher. What do you do? Throw the second pitch first? What are you going to do? First ball fastball hitter. What are you going to do with a guy? Throw him all breaking balls?
What do you do with this guy now? Tito Landrum at the plate. The chanting is Tito, Tito, Tito.
Well, I talked to Tito. There's an article in the paper that Dick Hauser said, Jim Palmer said that pitching you away, that's the wrong way to do it. Hauser said, how should we pitch you? I ran into to Tito tonight, he said, I'm looking for the ball inside because all 6 of my hits have been away.
That's his foul.
The point to be made is that when you have a 93-mile-per-hour fastball like Danny Jackson, and even though you have a first-ball fastball hitter up there like Jack Clark, you have to have enough confidence in your ability that you hope that you can make a good pitch. He did not make a good pitch, and you don't get away with too many bad ones to a guy like Jack Clark.
0-2. Landrum with Clark at second. Tito with his own chant right now. Of course, that's what happens when you have the postseason success. Last time I heard that Tito chant was at an old Yugoslavian rally. 0-2 pitch is fouled back. Not only hitting for a high average overall, but as you can see, the clutch hits. And we've said nothing about his defense, which has been magnificent. 1-2.
You didn't hear that chant the last time you were in Sarajevo.
No. No.
During the Winter Olympics in 1984.
Too many jackhammers in the streets. You couldn't hear anything. A little looper, and it's playable for Balboni in foul ground. So back-to-back doubles by Hearn Clark. It's 1-1 after one. Willie McGee had a great year, and I asked him a couple of days ago if he thought he was deserving of winning the MVP award this season.
It's hard to say. I don't see myself play day in and day out. So I can't really say anything about that. I think Dave Parker, in my words, has had the best offensive year of anybody, you know, all around. And you have a number of guys that's capable, and I'm not going to pick anybody really. I'm going to just let those other people, you know, have that task, do their job.
The official announcement will come in November as we start the second inning. Balboni fouling it at the plate, but in a vote of his peers, McGee was chosen the league's MVP, so he'd be odds on to win it. Steve Balboni still looking for his first extra base hit in this, his 12th postseason game. 1-1. Balboni, Sundberg, and Biancalana facing fourth. Second inning, game tied 1-1. Lifted to right field. They were overshifted, so a long way to go for Cedeno, and he gets there. Cesar playing the pull-hitting Balboni over toward right center field, but he hit that high enough so that Cedeno got there to make the play.
Not a very difficult play, but a lot of times an outfielder will run on his heels. Don't run on your toes, run on your heels. That ball's bouncing around.
Number 8, catcher Jim Sundberg.
Sundberg is the batter. Sundberg 245 during the season. The 10 homers, as you can see, equaling a career best. 0-1. Well, they didn't get him to hit home runs. They got him to settle a young pitching staff, and he really did a job in that department this year. Pitching got the Royals here. 1-1.
Saw Bob Force try to establish inside to Balboni. 2 pitches in, slider away. First 2 pitches into Sundberg. See where he goes. Another one inside.
That's the most unusual stat on Bob Force, is that he gave up 11 home runs, all to right-handers. Normally, percentages would say that you would probably be hit harder by lefties.
That's line to left field, but here comes Landrum after misreading it, and he can't make the play, and it rolls behind him. So Tito is human. There's a scoop. The way things are going, you were sure, despite the fact he misread it initially, he was going to come in and make the catch.
That's a scoop or lack of one.
Shortstop, Buddy Biancalana.
No scoop for Tito. And it's going to be scored a double. He did break back on that, as you call it, perfectly, Al. And then by the time he got his momentum coming forward, he can't make the play.
Some fan is probably mumbling, "Get that bum out of the lineup." Biancalana at the plate. Takes low, ball 1, 1-0. Royals this season, here and there with Biancalana and Concepcion almost randomly, but Hauser made the decision toward the end of the regular season. Buddy was his guy, and he's been the guy. Biancalana has started all of the postseason games. 1-1 to count.
Only 170 from the left side. Again, it's a matter of defense on AstroTurf. One with a man that's a better defensive shortstop. Concepcion with 21 errors. Biancalana with 10. Have a glove that's really based on pitching. And your other guy's only hitting around 200. Who are you going to play?
Now 2-1.
A footnote on Landrum's play in left field. One of the most difficult plays for an outfielder to make is when a guy takes a full swing, hits the ball up on the fist like Sundberg did. You have a tendency to break back because you misread the swing.
Upset about that call, so that's 3 times he feels he was squeezed by Schumacher.
Again, another situation which you don't have in the American League. You have the pitcher coming up next. Go ahead run on second. Who are you going to pitch to? I think after watching Jackson swing in the first game, I think I'd pick him.
Now 3-2 the count.
Well, of course, just 1 out, and if Jackson hits, he will probably be bunting. I'd rather pitch to Biancalana than Lonnie Smith. I think that's what it boils down to.
That's a 6th game, of course, if necessary, meaning if Kansas City wins tonight. Cox and Lebrand would go to the mound at 8 o'clock Eastern Saturday in Kansas City. Still 3-2.
Biancalana's not buying that. Keeps swinging that ball over his head. Maybe I needed you as a catcher. I would have won more games.
Couldn't have won many more than you did, I'll tell you that.
That's not what Earl Weaver said.
Biancalana rolls it through the hole and into right field. Now they are waving in Sundberg. Here comes Cedeno's throw. They don't get him. Nieto must have missed the tag. And he'll argue, and here comes Herzog. Herzog came flying out of the dugout. It's 2-1 Kansas City.
Well, if you remember back in game 1, the Cardinals got a break on a disputed call at home plate. Well, that was game 2. And let's see if Nieto made the tag on Sundberg before he touches the plate. From this angle, Nieto receiving that ball a little bit out in front of home plate. If you receive it on the line, there's no way a guy can dive around you and still touch your plate. You thereby ward him off the line, away from the plate. See where he catches the ball? If you catch that ball in the line, good slide or a good dive by Sundberg, it doesn't look to me like he touched it until he was on the plate.
Jackson takes low. Schulock certainly had a marvelous view of the action right there. And he's the man that matters on, as you say, the second play at home plate of a similar ilk, of the same ilk. The other night, Biancalana called out. And tonight they get the break with Sundberg called safe. It's a single. It's a run batted in. Biancalana goes to second on the throw. Hort gets up in the bullpen, and here's another angle.
See, if Nieto's in the line, that wards Sundberg out still farther away from the line, and he thereby can't touch home plate. But Nieto catching the ball in fair territory. Now when he dives, Sundberg, in effect, is able to touch home plate, and that's what he did.
Danny Jackson takes outside. Marvelous presence of mind, too, by Sundberg to go in that way.
Yeah, Well, Sundberg realized also that Nieto's receiving a throw from right field. That's a catcher's blind side. Can't see the runner and the ball at the same time.
Now 2-1 on Jackson. So Danny Jackson, as we have another look now.
He doesn't appear to be tagging him right now, but now he kind of rolls into him, but that's when Sundberg's on the plate. Good call.
2-2 the count. Kansas City on top 2-1. Ricky Horton in the bullpen. Force has given up 4 hits to the first 8 batters. Lonnie Smith on deck, and it's strike 3. So Danny Jackson out on strikes. Kane number 2. Horton up in the pen. He and Campbell are the long men. And remember, they're very deep in that bullpen. Morrell and Lonnie and Daly are short, and Horton and Campbell are in the middle. Lonnie Smith singled in the first inning, came in to score on White's groundout. Strike, 0-1.
That other close play at home, by the way, was on the throw by Tito Landrum. We showed it in our pregame clips tonight. And the runner was Buddy Biancalana.
Game 2. No balls and 2 strikes to count. So Biancalana at second base. That was his 3rd hit of the World Series. And it's 0-2. It's that warm that you have to swat away gnats. Yep, here it is, late October, and it's about 70 degrees. Two and two the count. Two to Lonnie Smith. It is just inside. So Force angry again. He is anything but volatile, is Force.
Well, he throws an occasional curveball. It's over the plate, but watched a lot of National League games this year and American League games. That ball is very rarely ever called for a strike anymore.
A simple grimace shows his anger, and the 3-2 pitch is hit foul out of play.
You think the strike zone is lowered now, Jim?
Well, it's definitely in the American League, and John Shulock is an American League umpire. They used to have the outside protectors. They called them the big balloons. And when you had one of those, you had a tendency to stand much more upright. If you look at almost, and there's only one umpire in the American League that still has one of them, that's Jerry Neudecker. They've all gone. You see him down on one knee.
That's high for ball 4. So runners at first and second. And Herzog, who won't wait much longer, sees Wilson.
He's going to wait. He's going to wait about one more hitter. That's why he's got Horton, the left-hander, up, because if Bob Force does not get Willie Wilson out, who's a switch hitter, we will see lefty versus lefty. That's no sure thing. Unless it's Tudor, maybe.
Up high, ball 1.
What is sure is that Ricky Horton will be in there, I'll tell you that.
Now Nieto, I think, may have been told to go to the mound to buy some more time for Horton. By the way, the little things that matter, too, in thinking about that top of the first inning, when Willie Wilson tagged up at first base to go to second, as Smith was going to third on Brett's fly ball. Remember, the run scored as Rourke goes to the mound on that ground ball to short. And if that infield to first and third is a double play depth, it's close. I'm not saying it would have been a double play, but it might have been. And the run might not have scored.
Yeah, with Ozzie Smith and Tommy Herr, it stands a pretty good chance to be a double play. Of course, Frank White does run well.
So they're buying time at Case Horton has to face Brett. Scoring summary, as we told you, Smith and Wilson was singles, Brett the fly ball, White the ground out, and then doubles by Hearn Clark tied it. And here in the second inning, the double by Sundberg and Biancalana's single with the bang-bang play at the plate. That's hit toward the gap in right center field, and that one is up the gap. And Biancalana will come in to score. So will Smith. Wilson has at least 3, and he will stop at third with a triple. It is 4-1.
High fastball out over the plate. Willie Wilson's waiting for it. Nobody playing in the gaps tonight. Nice relay by McGee, or it's going to be an inside to Parker.
So it's 4-1. Exit Force, enter Horton, and we'll be back in a moment. So Bob Force comes out of the game. He threw 54 pitches in an inning and 2/3, and Ricky Horton in to face Brett. 4-1 Kansas City as the Royals try to stay alive. Brett flied out to left in the first inning and deep enough to advance the runners, and it turned out to be a key fly ball. And Brett breaks his bat on Horton's first pitch. It's 0-1. Brett is now 5 for 15 in the World Series. Wilson at third base. Crowd quiet again. Each team with a run in the first inning and 3 here in the second for Kansas City. So Brett choosing his weapon.
Jim mentioned that inside park home run by Willie Wilson, or the prospects of one. Coming into this year, Willie Wilson had 17 career home runs, 13 were inside the park. And of course, his 4 home runs this year have been all legitimate, right?
All outside the park. Hit as many in 1 year as he had in his entire career over the wall.
Anytime he hits a gapper, you've got to be concerned about him coming all the way around.
Especially in a park like this. Brett hits a roller to the right side. Clark ranges and makes the play. So Brett strands Wilson at third, but the Royals come up with 3 in the inning and lead it 4-1 in the middle of the second. 4-1 Kansas City as we go to the bottom of the second inning, and Cesar Cedeno will lead off. Then Pendleton and Nieto. Cedeno hit .291 combined during the regular season, combined Cincinnati and St. Louis.
Kind of misleading. Hit .434 when he came over to the Cardinals. Really, I guess, what, the 31st of August?
29th. Just in time. Just in time.
To be on the Major League, or at least the World Series roster.
And he was picked up because at that point Jack Clark was hurt. They needed a first baseman. And they were fighting the Mets down the stretch, so he was a very important acquisition. And in a way, you could say that Cedeno might have made the difference, all things considered. A lot of things, of course, entered into why the Cardinals beat the Mets, but without Cesar, it really would have been tough.
Whitey Herzog has made the statement that had they not had Cedeno, they would have finished second.
That's lifted back of second base. White, one gone. So now Danny Jackson with a 3-run lead, knowing he can take this thing back to Kansas City. And if he pitches the way he did in the playoffs, and on Saturday in Game 1, we'll be back in Kansas City.
It looks like that. If you ever wanted to have a chance to practice for a game like this, all you have to do is go back to the playoffs when they were trailing 3-1, and all he did was pitch a 2-0 shutout. Already they've doubled the amount of runs for him. Of course, he's also doubled the amount of runs he gave up. None versus 1, I suppose. If you could double none.
And he's throwing hard. He's up in the low 90s early in the game. That last pitch, just for the record, at least according to the speed gun, at 92. Want to know the count. Down to White, so Frank has a putout and now an assist in the inning. And there are 2 down. Quickly and quietly. And Nieto is the batter.
Batting 8th. Number 23.
Thing about Herzog, we talked about the fact Whitey last night had been regarded by his peers in a poll as the best of the managers. He does things a little differently. That 3-2 squeeze to get in run 3 with Nieto laying it down.
I think he does things differently because if you look at Nieto, I mean, he's hitting .225, no home runs, 34 RBIs. It's a matter of knowing your player's ability level.
Biancalana a la Ozzie. Hello. But he's learned his lessons well over the past week. Ranging to his left. Gets a handshake from White.
And a fine play by Biancalana. He realizes he has a lot of time and gets the slow-footed Tom Nieto easily at first.
So at the end of 2, it's 4-1 KC. Frank White leads off in the top of the 3rd with a check swing foul, and the count is 0-1. Kansas City 4, St. Louis 1 here in Game 5. That's one way to get Chet Fordy's attention. 1-1 the count. Chased it, and the count 1-2.
Ricky Horton's not overpowering, but he does have an excellent changeup, kind of a slurve, kind of a slinger, wouldn't you say, Tim?
His foot hits the ground before his arm comes around. Nothing left for him to do but sling the ball. Those guys are very tough to pick up. I guess you might think, well, why didn't everybody do that then? Because it's so hard on your arm, Jim. And you would know that, of course.
I didn't sling the ball.
No, I mean, you would know that theory.
Yes, I am.
Slung that one right by Frank White, one away.
Well, really, you kind of throw a lot of off-speed pitches and just then a nice fastball, probably around 87, 80 miles right by the hitter. Again, he gave him a couple of different looks.
Right fielder Pat Sheridan.
Then established his fastball for strike 3.
Pat Sheridan at the plate. Struck out in the 1st inning. And as he did in Toronto, bluffs a bunt. 4-1 the score. Now, we told you about the platoon situation with Sheridan and Motley, but it's just too early right now, and Whitey can go too many ways for them to take Sheridan out here. 1-1 the count. So he knows that down the line, if the game gets close or even again, as Sheridan that time, I don't know what he was doing. It almost looked like he was trying to lay down a sacrifice, and the count 1-2.
Yeah, did he almost squared around? Looks like he was caught in between warm-up swings.
Down he goes. That's what you call a bad at-bat. He has struck out twice tonight, and Balboni comes up.
Now you see the foot hit the ground, and now the arm trails. Jim, I guess you could explain that a lot better than me, but that little adage is around because that foot hits the ground and then the arm trails. The arm doesn't come with a foot.
Well, it goes back to what Jim Pott, again, we talked about him in 25 years in the major leagues. It's Balboni swings at a pitch and misses. He said the pitcher's got to have great location, great movement, a deception, which is what Horton has, or he has to be overpowering. Here's a guy that's not overpowering, but he's got some deception, and he's had pretty good location so far tonight.
1-1 is fouled away, and a count 1 ball and 2 strikes on Balboni.
That was Johnny Sain's definition of a pitcher, as a matter of fact. He said that pitching was the art of deceiving the hitter. Good definition.
Yeah, some way, somehow.
Johnny's back with Chuck Tanner now, isn't he, in Atlanta?
I believe he is, yeah.
He believes in movement on the ball. Make the ball move somehow. George Bamberger, who was my first pitching coach, well, actually my second, Harry McKean, who's 20-game winner for the Cardinals right here in St. Louis. George's theory was location of the ball on the plate. That was more important than movement. Now, if you had both, you'd be a pretty good pitcher.
3-2 pitch is inside, so Balboni gets on with 2 out. And Sundberg will be the batter. Well, we've got company up here, I guess. With Sundberg coming up. Doubled in the 2nd inning. Kansas City on top by a score of 4-1. That's a strike. I said we had company and to clean up the desk.
And you bid it.
Enough's enough.
All this
messy.
paperwork, right?
I know it. Inside of the count, 1 ball and 1 strike. That's grounded down to Tommy Herr. Over to Ozzie. And KC's gone in the third. Still 4-1. Ricky Horton will lead things off. Horton 1 for 16 this season. Horton, McGee, and Smith. Herzog's bullpen is deep, but Horton looks like he has good stuff tonight. It's a little too early to start going to your bench at the moment. He'd like to go through the lineup one more time, and then he'll have more maneuverability with his pitching. So Horton bats for himself and takes low ball 1.
Of course, I'm telling you something you already know. If he's a second hitter or third hitter, obviously they have somebody up in the bullpen in case somebody gets on. But you're right. Why waste a pitcher when it looks like Horton, who did struggle in his first World Series appearance, a couple of runs, a couple of hits, a couple of walks, doing a nice job for you.
1-1 the count. Good fastball, and the count is 1-2. McGee and Smith to follow. 4-1. Royals on top. Crowd entertaining itself with the wave. And Horton waves at that one. Strikeout number 1 for Jackson.
Center fielder, Willie McGee.
McGee grounded out in the first inning. That home run coming last night as a right-handed batter. 1-0 the count. Dick Hauser out of Tallahassee, Florida, trying to get his Royals back home to Kansas City. Tomorrow would be an off day. 6-game schedule for Saturday. Jackson looks like he's almost picked up the velocity just a tad here in the third inning.
He is throwing hard. This young man has a fine, fine arm.
And that's grounded right back through the middle for a base hit. So that gets the crowd stirred up as McGee singles. And Willie, a man who had 56 steals, is on with Smith the batter.
Fastball inside half. You hit 353 in the league in hitting. You get hits like that. It wasn't a bad pitch. Just a better hitter at the plate.
So Smith, another of the switch hitters, as it is at the moment. Cardinals with their switch hitters all right-handed coming up against Jackson outside of the pitcher. Ozzie 1 for 14. Jackson allowed only 2 stolen bases this season while he was pitching and Sundberg was catching, and both of those came in the same game. And that would be indicative of a man who does a pretty good job of holding people on.
That, and also he has a very deceptive move. We saw it last night. Ozzie Smith got, of course, who is up at the plate right now. He'd get a big lead. It'd be a one-way lead. He'd be going back to first. That's what you want him to be doing.
And that one gets away from Balboni. On just sort of a token throw, McGee stops at second. And does Jackson wish he could have that one back?
Well, he sure does, Al. Again, that's immaturity. You have a 4-1 lead. You know, sure, you'd like to pick the guy off, but why throw a ball away? Put another man in scoring position. Kind of an unconventional pickoff move.
Jim, it's immaturity, and it's immaterial that Willie McGee was at first base. You got a 3-run lead. You got to get the guy with the stick in his hand. You're exactly right. No sense in worrying about McGee in that situation.
3-0 now the count.
Remember in the playoffs, Andujar being concerned about Steve Sachs. With 1 out and the pitcher hitting, he was going to bunt anyway. And that set up that big inning for the Dodgers.
The Cardinals have the making of a big inning here with runners at first and second and 1 out, and Tommy Herr coming up.
Jackson's part, but the fact that they had seen him once before. Johnny Lewis, the hitting coach, said that here's a guy, Tommy Herr, who had a great year because he knew most of the pitchers in the National League. He had a lot of trouble with Jackson because they've never seen him before. He felt that he would be a better hitter tonight. First time up, didn't hit the ball hard, but did hit a double down the right field line. So let's see what happens.
First and second and one out. And Herr hits a little soft looper. If it's a fair ball, the infield fly rule is in effect, and it's an out. For the second out, as Herr goes after the first pitch, and it brings up Clark. In the bullpen, Steve Farr is up for Kansas City. Hauser can't afford to wait. This ain't June. Jack Clark, a double in the first inning to drive in Herr. By the way, if you're wondering about the home run, Jackson was the toughest among those with significant numbers of innings in the American League to hit one off of this season. 1-0. He gave up only 7. McGee is at second base. Ozzie Smith at first. He gave up 7 in 208 innings. Doesn't get cheated on any count, and certainly not here.
I would think, being the fastball hitter he is, he's going to look most likely for a fastball or something out over the plate. Of course, Jackson, the last time he did that, double up the gap. He obviously is probably going to try to stay in, and there's Sundberg moving in.
And now it's 3-0 with Landrum on deck.
Give him the green light here.
Yeah, I think so. Don't you?
Yes, sir.
If you're a manager, what you do is, over the course of a year, and I remember Merle Weaver with Andres Mora, he's the greatest 3-0 hitter I ever saw. You have to make a determination. A lot of hitters don't like to hit 3-0 because they never do it.
That's ball 4, so Clark is on, and here comes Landrum. Tito champion is.
Really, what that goes back to is game 2. We did see Jack Clark swing away 3-0, get a base hit in the left field. Once you see a pitcher do that, as we see Gary Blaylock, the pitching coach for the Royals, going to the mound, as a pitcher, you know, hey, I cannot throw one just down the middle. That automatic first strike isn't automatic, especially with a guy that hit 22 home runs.
Gary Blaylock goes to the mound. You saw that shot of Landrum coming up to the plate. It was almost as if he was looking to the heavens and saying, again? The stage is set?
When hitters do hit 3-0, every hitter has an imaginary little box out in front of the plate. And they want that ball to be in that little box. And if it's 2-0, the box is a little larger. When it's 3-0, it's a little smaller. And the ball's got to be right there. And if it's in that little imaginary zone, you leave your feet, go to hack it. But it wasn't, and they walked it.
Here is Landrum with the bases loaded and 2 down. Third inning, 4-1 Kansas City. And Danny Jackson more comfortable out of the stretch. It's a little squibber. It's a foul ball off his foot at the plate. 0-1 to count. Tito came up in the first inning and fouled out. So the bases are loaded with 2 down.
And they stayed right in on his wrist in the first inning. 6 hits all the way. Heading the count. Let's see if Jackson's able to go where he wants to go.
The non-stop organ here at Busch Stadium, getting the crowd with the rhythmic clapping, and the strike 1 pitch is high, ball 1. 1 ball, 2 strikes.
see Danny Jackson, only reminds me of Ron Guidry. Good high fastball, great slider, just as Guidry has.
Just got a piece of it. So 1-2. Landrum at the plate. He has McGee at third, Smith at second, Clark at first. 1 ball and 2 strikes with 2 out, and Kansas City ahead 4-1. And that is popped up and playable for Brett. And Danny Jackson does a Houdini routine here in the 3rd inning. At the end of 3, 4-1 Royals. Tommy Herr was here for the title in 1982, and I asked him which team is better.
Well, it's hard to compare teams. The only basis that I can compare them is to look at the players that are still here that were on the 82 team. I look at Willie McGee, I look at Ozzie Smith, I look at myself, and I look at Joaquin Andujar and Darrell Porter and Jeff Lottie. And these players experienced it both times, and every player is a better player now than they were in 1982, basically because they're more experienced, stronger, more confident, and I think in that regard I would give this team the edge.
Meanwhile, Biancalana at the plate as we start the 4th inning, and the count on Buddy is a ball and a strike. He'll be followed by Danny Jackson and then Lonnie Smith, the 8, 9, and 1 hitters. 1-2 the count.
They have Vince Coleman. Maybe not now, but they have him.
That's
Again,
right.
It's amazing how many people you talk to and you say, well, Vince Coleman stole 110 bases. They don't realize that's the 3rd highest in baseball history. I mean, it's like 110. Oh, yeah, what's 110 stolen bases? And the guy's a rookie.
1 ball, 2 strikes the count. Biancalana, who singled in the 1st inning, and then he was involved that play that ended with Sundberg scoring, leading to the 4-run inning, and Biancalana gets aboard. So Horton, who looked sharp in the 3rd but walked Balboni, walks his 2nd man, and now Danny Jackson. You're doing him a big favor when you walk Biancalana, because in effect if Jackson can lay down a bunt, that's a man at 2nd and 1 out instead of 2 down. So Jackson obviously up there to lay 1 down. Here comes Pendleton creeping, and they try to pick Biancalana off, but he getting back into the throw.
We talked the other night, Ricky Horton has the best move in the National League. Of course, so good the other night they called it a balk.
Yeah, but if you're up there bunting in a sacrifice situation, you get picked off. It's like getting picked off in a hit and run play, or with the count 3-2 and less than 2 out and you're running. You got to make sure the pitcher is pitching, and regardless of his move, you cannot be picked off in that situation. You try to follow your first baseman. When the first baseman leaves, you leave. When he comes back, you get back. That's what Clark did then. He got off a couple of steps and came back. Biancalana just moved with him.
Clark is charging, and he can't lay down the bunt, so it's quickly 0-2. Jackson, who has no experience hitting professionally with 2 strikes, obviously up there to lay 1 down 1 more time. That's his role right now. Pendleton still in at 3rd. And can he lay it down? He does, but foul, and that's a strikeout. So Jackson is gone, 1 away, and Lonnie Smith is the batter. That's the 3rd strikeout for Horton.
Al, I was interested in Tommy Herr's remarks about that 82 club, because interestingly, if the Cardinals lose tonight, the Kansas City Royals will go to Kansas City with the same position as the Cardinals came back here to St. Louis against the Brewers in 82. They were down 3-2. They won games 6 and 7. Kansas City would be in that same position, and so the Cardinals realize it can't be done.
And that's hit down the line in right field, and Cedeno goes over to cut it off. Biancalana will go to 3rd, and the Royals have runners at 1st and 3rd, and Willie Wilson coming up. And that will probably precipitate activity, I would imagine, in the St. Louis bullpen.
Add a point to that, if you go back to game 2, You see it's like a fastball inside corner. Smith just insides it out to right field. Leads with his hands. Good high ball hitter. You see why right there. Danny Cox, 18-game winner against Charlie Liebrandt. We saw how he pitched in the second game of this series. Is there really a favorite, even though you are trailing 3-2 in your Kansas City?
Cardinal infield looking for the double play, but that's tough to pull off with this combination. Lonnie Smith at first and Wilson at the plate with Biancalana at third. In the bullpen, Bill Campbell gets up. 0-1. Wilson hitting right-handed. There's Campbell for the first time tonight. His single and his triple came off force. 4 runs, 6 hits, and 1 error for KC. 1 run, 3 hits, and no errors for St. Louis.
Tom Nieto got a foul tip off that finger. Looked like the forefinger of his left hand. Sometimes those foul tips can just take that hand and do funny things with your fingers on it. That's one of the big reasons catchers don't hit for a high average. Always your hands are puffed up, your fingers are sore.
Is that why?
There are other reasons too, but we won't get into those. Talent may have something to do with it too.
They send Smith, and it's grounded foul outside third, and Lonnie got a good jump that time, and the count is 0-2 on Wilson. So Smith gets back to first with Biancalana the runner at third, and Kansas City on top. There's Buddy. 4-1. Biancalana quietly in this series. 10 official at-bats. He has 3 hits. He also has 4 walks. And his on-base percentage is .538. So Buddy, who's gotten an incredible amount of notoriety this season and starts this inning, there he is. And the name, of course, just rolls off the tongue. You love to say it. The 0-2 pitch is inside 1-2. And almost a wild pitch. And on deck is Brett.
Good play by Nieto. See him kind of dig that right foot in to push off with the slider. Which goes in on Wilson.
Smith goes, pitch is high, and they throw through, and Herr wasn't covering second base, but got there when he saw them throwing and backhands the ball, and that temporarily saves a run. So the Cardinals starting to unravel here a little bit.
Well, the reason Nieto threw through, that sounded kind of nice to me. He threw through because the Cardinals are already 3 runs down, and Lonnie Smith stealing second base. I mean, after all, you just can't give him that base. And I was a little surprised that Herr was late in covering. That's a straight steal, really.
Now the infield is in, and the 3-2 pitch is swung on, then missed, and the throw goes to first base to record the out as Nieto had it get away but gets the out. And now the batter is Brett, and what a difference that makes. Even though it's lefty against lefty, you can afford to be a little more careful with George than otherwise.
Interesting situation here.
Yeah. Now Brett is at the plate, so it's lefty against lefty. You've got the cleanup hitter, White, on deck. Bobby Cox walked Brett with first and third, and they're going to walk him. So you're going against convention here, but Whitey Herzog wasn't ranked #1 by his peers, and you also have Campbell in the bullpen if he wants to bring him in. Herzog wasn't ranked #1 by being conventional. So they take the bat out of George's hands, and White will be coming up with the bases loaded and 2 down here in the 4th inning. Makings of a fast inning ball game here tonight in a way.
Yes,
Quite a bit of action early on, and even though it's a 3-run differential, a lot of key moments already have transpired. And here comes Whitey. And that'll mean a visit by Campbell to face White. So he goes to the bullpen, does Herzog. Campbell comes in. Bases loaded when we come back, and White coming up. 4-1 Royals.
Second baseman, Frank White.
Bill Campbell, his numbers reflected there, comes in to pitch to Frank White. Another one of these very key points in the game right now. If White gets a hit, it kind of breaks the game wide open. If he doesn't, the Cardinals get out of a jam, and they come up to bat with a little bit of, I hate to use the word, but momentum. You know what I mean.
Similar situation as the Cardinals had in the bottom of the third. They had the bases loaded and 2 out, and Danny Jackson got out of it.
Ball 1 to White. Bases loaded. Bianca Lana, who started the inning with a walk at third. Lonnie Smith is at second, and they walk Brett. George at first. With 2 down, 4-1 Kansas City, 4th inning. And it's 2-0.
Not the same situation, but anytime you walk the bases loaded, and of course Whitey Herzog did do what you need to do, pitch around Brett to get a right-hander versus right-hander. Anytime you walk the bases loaded and you're out on the mound and you go 2-0, you got to throw a strike. Should get a pretty good pitch to hit.
And he does, and he fouls it away and a count 2-1.
Matter of fact, in the top of the 9th inning of Game 2, Charlie Lebrand had a similar situation. With the Cardinals trailing 2-1, it was 2-1 to Terry Pendleton. He doubled down the left field line. The Cardinals end up winning 4-2. That's what happens when you fall behind with the sacks loaded.
Here's the 2-1, and it's grounded foul, so it's 2-2.
That's what can happen when you fall behind.
I didn't catch that. Was that Avron Fogelman who caught that ground ball?
I think it was.
The foul ball? One of the Royals co-owners?
Well, that's not a good
There he is, sure. I just glanced away from the monitor for a moment. There he is.
Good omen for Avron.
Yeah. Here's the 2-2 to White. Change curve, swung on and missed. And so the Royals leave the bases loaded, and it's still 4-1 at the end of 3 1/2. As you watch the pitch on which Smith struck out, let's get a mid-game comment from the man Dick Young calls Reggie Jax, J-A-X.
You told me you were going to get that in.
Yes.
You know, the one thing that I felt when I came to the ballpark today, around town today, I went into either restaurant and the people were getting ready to celebrate for their victory tonight. Somehow I got to the ballpark today and that feeling changed. It seems as though people were talking about, for some reason, going back to Kansas City. And I've been around quite a few World Series and just had the feeling here that people just did not believe in the Cardinals as much as it seemed that they did around town. Also, I'd like to tell you guys that I hit for Mr. Horton because I believe in offense. So that's not a surprise to anybody. And let's remember right now that Kansas City has scored 4 runs. We have still not heard from Mr. George Brett. And I know they're dying to wait to see him do something, but Mr. Balboni has not answered the call yet either.
No, he hasn't. And it's Cedeno who leads things off as we go to the bottom of the 4th inning, and the pitcher's outside, and the count is 1 ball and 1 strike with Cedeno, Pendleton, and Nieto. 4-1 Kansas City. Royals have already left 6 aboard tonight, and the Cardinals have stranded 4 in 3 innings, and each team has left the bases loaded. Popped up and coming back out of play. 1-2 in the Cardinal bullpen. There is Todd Worrell. It's an interchangeable Cardinal bullpen, as you know by now. Here's a fellow who might come in under other circumstances to get that last out or last couple of outs in the 9th inning, but Herzog has him up in the middle tonight. Pitcher due up 4th in the inning. Herzog talking to him before the game tonight and asking him to just generally giving his philosophy of how he'd use the pen tonight, said in effect that it would all depend on the situation in any given inning. So Worrell being up here indicates to me that Whitey thinking about Sheridan, Balboni, and Sundberg, and that more than anything else is the reason Worrell would be up instead of a Daly or a Lottie right now.
And it better be a 9-inning game if he comes in this early.
2-2. Taking a chance on bringing in your key man, but then again, Lottie is a guy who can get those last few outs, and so can Daly.
Yeah, but you only got 2 left. You got Daly and Lottie. If it goes into extra innings, you may have a pitcher hitting for himself.
Biancalana will scoop it up. 1 away. This will all be academic if it's a 1-2-3 inning, though, because the pitcher is due up 4th. So Cedeno is gone, and Pendleton is the batter. He grounded out in the 2nd.
Reggie was talking about how he has a different feeling here in the ballpark, and he didn't feel that the Cardinal fans were real confident. Even Whitey Herzog's son called him yesterday morning and said, with the Cardinals up, of course, yesterday, 2-1, he said, "I'll see you at Game 6 in Kansas City." How about that? Call from Keystone, Colorado. So he didn't really have a lot of confidence in his father winning the next 2 games.
Doesn't Whitey live in Kansas City?
He does.
Yeah.
Maybe he meant that.
Game,
Yeah.
at the
Oh.
game.
Yeah, he said Game 6. Game 6. Yes, sir.
1-0. And the count 1-1. Charlie Liebrandt, who would pitch in a 6th game on Saturday. Danny Cox would be his opponent in a 6th game. 1-2 the count. On the subject of the manager's children, Dick Hauser's daughter came to the game last night, and as she started to give her ticket to the ticket taker, somebody reached in, grabbed it, and ran with it. She eventually got in. They found out who she was, put her in the seat, and when the guy came in with that ticket, they took care of him. That's grounded toward the middle. Biancalana scoops it up back of second and throws him out, and there are 2 down.
Well, not only getting on base, but we talked about the reason he's in the infield for the Royals. Not a particularly difficult play, but marking him a good shortstop is the one that can make the sure play and not mess it up. He hadn't done that all series.
Nieto is the batter. He grounded out in the 2nd inning. One to go the count. Herzog, for the moment anyway, has Campbell kneeling in the on-deck circle.
Tim, you played at Florida Cage. How many infielders did you see would make that great play but couldn't make the routine one? And that's a lot of times what managers look for, consistency.
That was, as a matter of fact, the shortstop for whom Ozzie Smith was traded, Gary Templeton. That was a tag on him when he first came up. Could make the spectacular play, not the routine play.
Lonnie Smith will track it down, and that's a 1-2-3 inning. The 2nd turned in thus far by Danny Jackson, and we'll be back after this word from our local stations. Bowie, you were dead right. I've got to say it again. Short sleeve shirt, late October. It's gorgeous. Pretty soon they'll be playing the World Series in late November, the way things are going. It's a summer's like evening.
With the 4 out of 7 format now, right? During the playoffs.
This goes 6. It's going to snow in Kansas City.
I don't think so. It's been fantastic. The weather has just been great, gorgeous in downtown St. Louis today. Strolling around, everybody with summer clothing on, and just a lovely night.
Did you go strolling today?
Well, no, but I was looking out the window, and there were a lot of strollees out there. Sheridan leading things off in the 5th inning, 4-1 Kansas City, and the pitcher's outside, ball 1. 1-0. Campbell, one of those pitchers who just feels more comfortable out of the stretch, and he works that way with out base runners. Rips it down to Clark, and it caroms away from Jack. He shovels to Campbell. They get him on a bang-bang play. Clark, a right fielder by trade, made the conversion this year and the recovery on this play.
Well, Jack said that he felt a little bit uncomfortable, maybe because balls are hit that hard. But he does do the one thing's important. He gets in front of the ball. Bill Campbell with a late break. So you see Jack Clark kind of going around. And here's a shovel throw to Campbell, a little bit late, but just beat Sheridan in the bag. It's one of those plays when you're on the mound, you think he's going to take the ball by himself, even though it was hit hard, and you do not break immediately. A lot of times that's the difference between getting the out and not.
0-1 pitch is fouled back. We were kidding around about the weather and the World Series at night, and personally I was a big fan of Bowie Kuhns, and I think he did a tremendous job in his reign as the commissioner of baseball. And they made so much of that one incident that people forever remember it. And it all comes around. For every game like that there's been in the World Series, there have been a few like this as well. Balboni down on strikes, 2 down, and Sundberg coming up.
When you try to fool the batter, take a look for yourself. Way out in his front foot. You can't make a much better pitch. Very similar to the pitch that got him out of the base-loaded situation to Frank White.
Two out and the base is empty, and Sundberg is the batter. Doubled and grounded out. 1-0.
Of course, Tim, you talked about it the other night. Very deceptive motion. Comes at you with arms and legs. Bill's about 6'5", not overpowering. Has a great changeup. Ball sinks. 31 saves one year for the Red Sox before he hurt his elbow, and he's come back, and even though he hasn't been used in that situation, he's done a great job for the Cardinals.
I was going to bring that point up. He was the first free agent drafted in the major leagues back in 1976. He signed for what is now the paltry sum of a guaranteed $200,000 a year for 5 years. The very first free agent drafted, Bill Campbell.
Nice time to throw that pitch with nobody on base. 2-2. There is John Tudor, and just thinking ahead, if the Royals win games 5 and 6, you would have on Sunday in a 7th game a matchup of Tudor and Saberhagen.
By the way, what's the status of the baby watch?
I'm going to get to that in a second. The 2-2 pitch is grounded to third, and Pendleton throws him out. We're going to call Janine and have the report for you when we come back in the bottom of the 5th. It's still 4-1. You know that David Letterman, of course, has had a lot of fun with Buddy Biancalana, and so earlier I talked to him. Here's his reaction.
Well, it's been kind of fun over the season. I guess the last 2 months of the season is when it really came to a head, and I'm asked about it wherever I go by fans. They're constantly yelling only 4 more thousand hits to Pete Rose, and reporters are asking me all the time. It's been fun. It's gotten me a little publicity over the season, and I think David Letterman might get a little publicity because of it.
But he also said the other day he wants to go on the show to see if he can get the rating up to a 1.5. He will be invited. I do get that feeling. Ivan De Jesus makes his first appearance in postseason play and takes outside ball 1. 1-0 the count. De Jesus, who was a starting shortstop for years with the Philadelphia Phillies. Before that, the Cubs, and he played with the Dodgers, lifts a fly ball to shallow right field, and it's Sheridan making the catch. And that's 5 straight set down now by Danny Jackson. So 1 away, and here comes McGee, the top of the order. All right, now the report on Janine Saberhagen, and we've been following her progress for a couple of weeks now. The pregnant wife of Brett, she is still in Kansas City. Everything's fine. Due any day. And Brett will be home. I believe the Royals are leaving. I'll check it on a charter after the game, so he'll be home tonight. And we'll keep you abreast unless the series ends tonight. And then I suppose just follow the action on college football scoreboard Saturday.
Jim Lampley, huh?
Well, we'll get the information somehow. 2-0 the count. Meanwhile, Saberhagen is just sitting down there. Not going to come in relief. He's in the bullpen, watching the game. Somehow wearing gloves to keep those hands warm on a warm night. 2-1.
Those are batting gloves.
I get it. You're right.
He's getting used to it, right?
Exactly. He did look good the other night. I mean, I got to defend the pitchers, but he's definitely had the best stroke. We never got to see Bob Forsch yet. He was an outstanding hitter.
And that's by Brett. Base hit. McGee has his second hit. And you can bet Jackson learned his lesson the last time about paying attention to McGee, especially now down by 3.
Well, impressive. Very similar to the pitch that McGee hit for a home run. Down in slider. You got to be quick with your hands. Again, hit 353 on the year, just about equally from both sides. Good indication why. Really turned on that ball.
Ozzie Smith takes outside, ball 1. 1-0 the count.
A lot of people, even in baseball, think that hitters are jammed by balls being down and in. You jam guys on the hands, where the hands are right about the waist. That's the best place to jam guys. If you're going to keep it in on them, you do not keep it down and in. Keep it right on the hands.
Well, especially on good hitters.
Yeah.
Hit just fouled, and the count is 1 ball and 1 strike. Ozzie 1 for 14. Worrell still throwing in the pen because he'll be coming in the next inning in his bunch, as the pinch hitter De Jesus was the batter for Campbell. So in the 6th, with Biancalana leading off, it'll be the hard-throwing righty.
Maybe he hasn't learned his lesson.
Well, at least he won't be making any of those moves that he made the last time. He just sort of flipped the ball over there. That unorthodox move. This time he'll mean business. And he hasn't picked off as Balboni throws to second, and they get him. So he paid attention, stuck to the fundamentals. Remember that awkward throw that created the error the last time, and that good move nails him.
We talked that only 2 guys have been stealing with Sundberg and Danny Jackson. We talked about the deception in the move as we see Balboni's throwing. Steve is not known for his throwing ability. Soft hands around the bags, had trouble making the throw. Again, he's fooled. McGee tries to outrace the ball to second, doesn't make it.
Now a ball and 2 strikes to count on Ozzie Smith with 2 out and the bases empty. 4-1 Kansas City, 5th inning. Brett gets caught between hops. Boy, you can see that coming a mile away. Ozzie Smith is on his way to second. Here's the throw, and they don't get him. He's in there. Brett committed too late. You can see it the minute the ball left the bat.
There's a difference between a short hop and an in-between hop. This is an in-between hop. Now watch Brett come up. All infielders are taught to keep the glove below the hop. And George, as you can see, was about even with the hop. And that's why Lonnie Smith, or Ozzie Smith, is in the second base. Second error of the game, but that's an understandable error. Didn't really know which way to go on that, to come in and play it on the short hop or back up. If he backs up, no way to get Ozzie Smith.
And how big is the pickoff now? So 2 out, and Herr is the batter, doubled and popped out. Ball 1, 1-0 the count. 4 runs, 6 hits, and 2 errors for the Royals. A run, 4 hits, no errors for the Cardinals, with Ozzie Smith at second base, and 2 out in the bottom of the 5th inning.
I always hear people talking about how a ball picks up speed on AstroTurf. I don't think it really does that, but what it does is that second hop has that top spin on it. Hard to gauge sometimes.
1-1 the count.
By staying under the hop, what infield instructors mean by that, when you stay under the hop, you're always below the ball coming at you. What that does, it brings the hands down and out because it brings the rear end down. And if your rear end isn't down, as you saw George had his up on that ball, well then a lot of times a play like that will happen. It'll carry him off the wrist and you'll have an error.
1-1 is hit in the air to left field, and it's an easy play for Lonnie Smith. So the pickoff is a key play in this inning. No runs, a hit, an error, and at the end of 5, 4-1 KC. Todd Worrell, his postseason marks there, came up from Louisville in August. He'd been a starting pitcher there for about half the year, put him in the bullpen, brought him up, and he's done some job as Biancalana swings and misses. Biancalana, Danny Jackson, and Lonnie Smith. 6th inning, game 5, 4-1 KC. That's looped down the line and just foul. So Biancalana, who, as we said before, has now been on base more than half the time he's come up, nearly gets on again. He may host the Letterman Show pretty soon, says Chuck Howard.
He told me the great thing about playing the World Series in prime time is that he's had more prime time exposure than David Letterman. And you got to stay up in the middle of the night to watch Letterman.
0-2 pitch, 1-2. I have a feeling we are in major trouble on Letterman's Show very soon.
I've already been on the show, and I was in major trouble.
Buddy Biancalana's mom is in major trouble, too.
And down he goes.
And I'll tell you why. She said she would have been more offended by Letterman's remarks had it been a better quality show. So Buddy's mom to his defense.
I think the script writers are hard at work at 30 Rock. Danny Jackson fouls it away, and the count is 0-1.
I mean, seriously, if you're David Letterman, what power he must feel that he has. He's able to cure insomnia all the way across the country.
Knock it off. 0-1 to Jackson. It's up high, and it's 1-1.
Well, the first player that he picked on, of course, weighed about 120 pounds more than Buddy Biancalana. That's Terry Forster.
The old tub of goo. 1-2.
Well, this guy is a real hoss. 95-mile-per-hour fastball. Came in the first ball game, got the save, 2 1/3 innings.
2-2 the count. Cardinal pitchers have already combined for 9 strikeouts in the game and make it 10. So they've used 4 pitchers, have 10 strikeouts, most consecutive strikeouts right there. A total of 5. And that, of course, would be batters' strikeouts, in case you just looked at the graphic and you thought it meant pitchers and you saw Jackson's name. He joins Mickey Mantle. That's the wonderful, one of the wonderful things about baseball statistics. When you compile lists like that, you see all this crazy stuff. Mickey Mantle and Danny Jackson did the same thing. Lonnie Smith, a swing and a miss. 96 was the clocking on that one. 2 out, bases empty. On the subject of strikeouts, of course, all I have to do is look over to my right, and there's Reggie Jackson with a big K on his monogram.
Only 170 one year. I mean, that's. I think my 2000 strikeout was Reggie Jackson on my right, but then again, there were some of those long home runs, so I guess that's what you get. You go up there, you swing hard, right, Reg? And sometimes you hit 500. How many home runs?
1-2 the count. 530 is where Reggie ended the season.
Too shabby.
Past Willie McCovey and Ted Williams. 521.
And Worrell strikes out this side. Flamethrower. 4-1 Kansas City.
I'm going to give you the definition of a power pitcher. There's one. There's Jackson. Look at the ball go up high fastball. There's Smith.
Jack Clark comes up, bottom of the 6th inning. doubled and walked. He'll be followed by Landrum and Cedeno. Danny Jackson. 3-run cushion. And Clark with the third baseman Brett back deep. Bluffs a bunt. The count 1-0. Jack has done that before in this series. He's trying to keep George a little more honest.
Well, what it does, when you fake a bunt on the first pitch, it does bring the third baseman in. It makes it a little bit easier to hit the ball by him.
1-1 the count.
Then you get him in close and you toy with hitting a rocket past him. But George will probably move back to normal depth right now. And he's slowly, there we go, George.
A couple of ways to do that. Greg Nettles was one of the best third basemen that I ever saw play. Of course, played with Brooks Robbins for years. I think 18 straight Golden Gloves. Greg would kind of creep in, play deep, and be moving in. I can't see playing in and going back. It's all right to do it before the ball goes through the hitting area. Certainly don't want to be on your heels if you're playing third base.
Of course, every time you look to your right, you had a pretty good third baseman over there the majority of your career. Brooks Robinson, not too shabby.
Well, that goes back to the 70 most valuable player in the 70 World Series, where he was over Cincinnati.
What a player he was. Mercy.
3-2 pitch is popped up in foul ground. Sundberg coming all the way back and makes the catch. And that's a great play because that's a mile high. He's coming all the way over to the railing. He's got to think about the dugout steps. And when you go down the steps here, you're in major trouble. He's thinking about a lot of things.
Plus, you're thinking about all the fans. Look at everybody grabbing at the ball. He's got the railing to worry about, the fans to worry about. Now, if this ball is out in the playing area and a fan reaches out, Clark would have been called out. But fortunately for the fans, you can see that gentleman there moving those hands back. Unless you have a glove, it's not a good idea to go after those foul balls. Those things hurt.
Tito Landrum fouls it away. That was also kind of an interesting foul out, too, because you don't often see a right-handed batter foul the ball back off his left shoulder like that. Almost every pitch will go the other way, and left-handers in the opposite direction.
A catcher is taught a ball on the inside part of the plate, if it's fouled back, turn to your left. If it's on the outside part of the plate and it's fouled back, turn to your right. And more often than not, you'll be right. That ball was an inside fastball. Clark fouled it back, and Sundberg picked the ball up immediately by turning to his left.
Also says something about Jack Clark's bat speed.
Yes, it does.
It does.
The left-handed batter who used to foul a lot of balls off his right shoulder was Joe Morgan. He just had that level swing and the type of swing and the bat speed that created that. But it's a little thing to notice when you go to a ball game how infrequently that happens. Fouled away in the count 1-2.
What Danny Jackson's been able to do with most of the Cardinal hitters, we talked about his ability to pitch inside, is that especially with Tito Landrum, 6 hits, all have been away. He's been getting ahead so he can make Tito expand the strike zone inside. Let's see if they go back inside.
Grounded down to White at second base, and he throws him out. So there are 2 down. Cedeno is coming up. Quickly, the scoring summary in the first inning. The Royals got on the board. White drove in Smith. On the ground out,
Right fielder, Cesar
back-to-back doubles at the bottom of the first for the Cardinal run. Then Sundberg's double. He was safe at home on a close play on Biancalana's single, and then Wilson's triple did enforce. And all zeros since, so it's 4-1 with 2 out of the bases empty, and Cedeno the batter. Popped out, grounded out, 0 for 2 tonight, 1 for 11 in the World Series. One and oh.
Always kind of marveled at the scouting reports you'd get on pitching the first game in 1970 in the World Series. We go through the hitters: Tolan, Bench, Perez, Lee May. The scout says all high fastball hitters. That's all I threw. I raised my hand about halfway through the meeting and said, "How come I'm pitching the first game?" Then they said, "Oh, not your high fastball."
That's a chopper charged by Brett. He throws to first. And in all the even innings, the Cardinals have gone out 1, 2, 3. On to the 7th we go. Here was Willie Wilson's triple in the 2nd inning, which turned a 2-1 ball game into a 4-1 game, with Biancalana coming in to score and Lonnie Smith also crossing the plate, and that did it for Forsch. The Cardinal bullpen has done a great job in relief. They've held the Royals right there, but Danny Jackson has held the Cardinals right there. So it's 4-1 as Wilson leads off the 7th by taking a strike. Todd Worrell, who struck the side out in the 6th inning. 4th Cardinal pitcher. Fouled away, and the count is 1-1. Kansas City bullpen. There is Brett Saberhagen. This is when you would normally throw between starts, and that's what he's praying for. Because another start for Brett would mean a 7th game on Sunday. The next pitch is fouled away. Wilson, Brett, and White. 7th inning. 4-1 Kansas City.
He's talking to Todd Worrell, and he said his biggest problem as a starter, which is what he was in the minor leagues, I think it was 3-10, was that the second time around he had problems. You really have to give the coaching staff, not only in the minor leagues, but here in St. Louis, a lot of credit for understanding that here's a guy 95, 96 miles per hour, might make an outstanding short man.
And Wilson strikes out. Second time he's gone down, so Worrell has faced 4 and struck out 4.
When you're a short man, you can come in and just throw your overpowering stuff. When you're a starter, 2nd, 3rd times around, you have to have another pitch to go with it. He does have a slider, but as we look at the most consecutive strikeouts, I sat on the bench and watched Mo Grabowski. I wasn't there with Hod Eller, though.
Timmy was.
You probably caught him, didn't you, Tim?
Indeed, indeed.
Of course, the second catcher on that team, along with you, was Euchre. Bob Euchre.
Old roommate. Room with him here in St. Louis.
Well, if he caught him in 19, what? 19, he had to be old.
Well, we heard from the Euchre today. He was looking for tickets.
Well, of course, it's nice, though, when you don't have tickets, you can be up in that hotel up there, right, under the left field roof, watching the game. It's not that far from where he normally sits.
That's right. Right across the street, where you need a reservation for an elevator. 1-1 the count on Brett, and it's fouled away in the count 1-2. One out, bases empty. 4-1 Kansas City in the 7th inning. Two and 2 the count. 12 strikeouts tonight by the Cardinal staff.
Tell me, if you're George Brett right now, trying to tune up the bat.
Turn up that dial a little bit. Everything Worrell throws is hard. A hard slider and a hard fastball.
The good news for the Royals is that this will be Worrell's last inning. And it's hit foul because he is due to come up 3rd in the bottom of the 7th. And then they'll have Daly and Lottie left.
George Brett turned up the dial against Goose Gossage in 1980, 3rd game of the ALCS. Hitting a 3-run home run to sink the Yankees' chances.
Only 98 miles per hour that pitch was on the radar gun.
Is that all? Gotta have it turned up.
And down goes Brett. And the bat winds up near the Cardinal dugout. And so Worrell has now struck out all 5, and that's 13 strikeouts for the Cards.
Well, we talked about his fastball. George looking for the fastball. That's all you can look with 2 strikes. High slider, but he's fooled by it. It's kind of what you say, throwing the bat head.
He even looks good throwing his bat, though. Did you see that follow through? I was kind of saying that tongue in cheek. I mean, that was an absolutely perfect follow through, though. Looked like your golf swing from the other side.
Oh, 0-1 on White. 0-2. So here's Worrell, a strike away from putting his name in the World Series record book.
If you're Frank White, you just saw George Brett strike out on a slider. You know the guy also has a 96-mile-per-hour fastball. What do you look for?
There he is. 6 in a row. 14 Ks in the book. 4-1 Kansas City at the end of 6 and a half. Here we go to the bottom half of the 7th inning. Terry Pendleton to lead off. It's the bottom of the order for the Cardinals. And Pendleton pops it up in foul ground. Brett has to charge hard toward the dugout. Slides, goes into the dugout. Did he make the catch? No, he didn't. And George Brett in the worst possible ballpark to go into the dugout, because the steps are narrow and it's very steep. He appears to be all right. Well, I think you've seen all you need to see about George Brett. Forget the statistics and the numbers and all of that stuff, and remember that play. And here he comes.
Everybody knows George Brett's tough as a fast food steak, but not too many guys are tough to take this kind of pop when you go in the dugout. Only play you can make this play, or the only way, is to slide and try to catch it. He drops the ball, his teammate's trying to catch him, but he's airborne right on that floor. Oh boy.
Into the arms of Lee May.
Save for Lee May.
Trying to cushion him. Man. They replay it for the crowd. They give him another hand. Our hats are off to you, pal.
Yes, sir.
One of his biggest problems, they always said he was injury prone. This is why.
0-1 pitch is another strike. And this is, if you played here, Ted, and you know, you can barely walk down the steps of the dugout here. The steps are so narrow, and it's very, very steep.
It is what the word implies here in St. Louis. It's a dug out and down.
Oh, 2 to Pendleton. Got him swinging. Tagged by Sundberg. 1 away. Todd Worrell, they figured out a way to get him out of the game, even though he's in this record book right now, as they'll have to pinch hit for him. Meanwhile, Danny Jackson very quietly keeps mowing him down. He has now retired 5 in a row. That's only his 2nd strikeout. Nieto tries to bunt, something he proved he could do last night, and the count is 0-1. Boy, oh boy, George Brett. You can put up a lot of numbers and stuff. I don't know what it means.
If you ever pitched against him, you know what kind of player he is.
That's popped up in foul ground. You know, it's funny. You can tell it's that kind of a game where the Royals have their backs to the wall totally here. On a couple of plays tonight, the way Sundberg came to the plate, the way Sundberg went back to the screen on that foul ball, it was that little extra, this is the World Series sort of momentum in that play right there, of course, by Brett.
The most interesting thing I think I've ever heard George really say is that he said Charlie Loud taught him how to hit, Chuck Hiller taught him how to field, Whitey Herzog taught him about the game of baseball.
And Danny Jackson just taught Tom Nieto a lesson for strike 3. 2 down, and Brian Harper now comes up to pinch hit.
But Jackson has been coming in on a lot of the right-handed hitters all night. You see Sundberg setting up way outside because you can afford to miss with the ball. But that ball right on the corner. What a job by Jackson, not only in postseason play, but his last week of the season. He had a big victory over the California Angels to put the Royals in this thing.
There's Lottie in the pen as Worrell comes out. That'll be a pretty good-looking line in the newspaper tomorrow, won't it? 2 innings pitched, no hits, no runs, no earned runs, no walks, 6 strikeouts. Harper chops it foul, and the count is 0-1. Well, what Jackson has done, if nothing else, is he's taken Hauser down to the point where he can bring in Quisenberry or bring in Farr. He's down to the short men. He's gone through the long and the middlemen. He's right down to the end. Count 0-2.
Alluded earlier about how he does look like Ron Guidry. Of course, Ron Guidry, 22 wins this year. What he's learned to do, of course, is take a little bit off, come up with a changeup. But when Guidry was, I think, 25-4, 25-3 back in 1978, the only difference was that he could make better pitches away. When Jackson learns to do that, I hate to be hitting in the American League.
Well, Danny Jackson says, take that, Worrell. I'll strike at the side as well. And he does. We go to the 8th. The only way you can do justice to that play with Brett is to show it to you at regular speed. So we're going to show it to you normal speed right now to see how he goes in as he's attended to in the dugout.
And one may ask, why didn't he go over there and stand and catch it? Well, the ball wasn't hit high enough for him to do anything other than miss.
That would have been one of the all-time plays. Lee May making sure he had some cushion, and May had to think about flying spikes as well. It's a very dangerous spot for the receiver. Sheridan at the plate in the 8th inning with Lottie on the mound. 2-0 count. By the way, most strikeouts in a World Series game accomplished by one man, Bob Gibson.
Opening game of the 1968 series against the Detroit Tigers, and that, interestingly, is a series where the Cardinals were up 3-1, and the Tigers came back to beat the Cardinals that year. 4-3. Mickey Lolich, the most valuable player, winner of 3 games.
17 strikeouts for, what is that, well, it's a beach ball that escaped from Dodger Stadium. Saturday night, if necessary, Cox and Leibrandt would be the matchup.
Al, I guess objectively speaking, the Royals will be, in a sense, in a better position than they were against Toronto. For Game 6 and 7, they had to go to Toronto to win the American League Championship Series, and at least they'll be going home to Kansas City for Game 6 and 7 if they win this one.
Sheridan hits it to left center field, and that's looped in for a base hit. So Sheridan is on with a single. That's only his second hit in 14 at-bats. And as we go back to take a look at Brett, you can see them working on him. He appears to be okay.
First baseman, Steve Belmoni.
Okay, George.
Now, Zeke, the equipment man next to him, Mickey Cobb, the trainer. George doesn't appear to be none the worse for wear. Here's Balboni. And he hits it into left field for a base hit. So the Royals, and it's juggled there by Landrum, but no further advance by Sheridan at second. 2 on and nobody out. And Sundberg is the batter.
Overhead view of the base hit by Balboni. Looks like Lottie's a little bit rusty, but then again, when you're trailing, obviously you do not want to go with a pitcher till he gets out. But if you're Whitey Herzog, you're looking to get your guys a little bit of work, so they will be ready for Game 6. Not bad to have your whole bullpen get a inning or two.
Cardinals guard against the bunt, but this is an interesting call for Hauser because you got Biancalana, and I know he's been hot, but the bunt Sundberg and have second and third and Biancalana the pitcher up, or just what? In any event, as you look at the defense, that's how they're aligned. And he's up there to swing away on the first 2 pitches, and it's 1-1.
I don't think you bunt. I think we saw Jim Sundberg last night, base hit to right field, off Tudor, pitched a shutout, also hit a line drive. He can't hit the ball the other way. I'd rather have him try to advance the runners and maybe create a situation where he might score some runs right now. Otherwise, I think you're going to take the bat right out of Biancalana's hands.
1-2 the count. In the bullpen, meanwhile, Kent Daly is throwing.
On the other side of the coin, as you see Daly, the left-hander, Jeff Lottie led all National League relievers in double play ground balls. And Sundberg does not run well.
2-2. That's a good point you make too, Tim, because Lottie and Worrell both serve the role of closers, so Herzog knows if he wants the heat. I mean, Worrell was the classic example tonight. If he wants the grounder, this is your man. Two to Sundberg is low, ball 3. Now we'll see if they start the runners to stay out of a potential double play. The risk, obviously, you run with Sheridan at second and Balboni at first is a double play.
I know if I'm catching, I know what base I'm throwing to.
Second base, good point. Get the trail runner Balboni as opposed to the speedy Sheridan, regardless of what kind of jump they have.
I think he's going. Tim?
I do too.
James?
Affirmative.
They stay, and the pitch is grounded down to third. Short hop by Pendleton, makes the tag, and throws to second, and they get that kind of a double play. And Hauser, if he could do it again, would send the runners.
There's really no sense in not sending the runners. You're 3 games up, and it seems like both are 3 runs up. You know, you do avoid the double play if you do send the runners, but that's really not the point. You can afford to take more chances when you're 3 runs up. Dick playing much more conservative than the situation dictates. When you're 3 runs up, you take more chances.
Biancalana takes the line. That was not good base running by Sheridan. You have to be totally aware of what's happening, and he just made it too easy to be tagged out. I mean, you have to do more than a cursory escape act on that play. 2-0 the count. Here it is. And you got to be thinking about what's going on here.
You can stop, and if you do stop, Pendleton would alertly go to second for the force and then get Sheridan, but at least, and your point's well taken, you do have a guy in a rundown as opposed to a tag and a force play.
Do anything, but you can't be tagged. Fall down, stop. 2-1 the count.
But if you send the runners, our analysis doesn't center around how Sheridan makes an out. But the runners weren't running, but I don't understand why not.
Biancalana hits it into center field for a base hit. And now look at that double play. And now Hauser has to send Jackson up to hit with first and second and 2 out. So in the inning, you got 3 singles and a double play, 5-4. And you're really squandering a pretty good little opportunity here to again break the game open, which they missed out on in the 4th inning when White struck out. So even though they have a 3-run lead, it could be a lot more. Jackson at the plate. 0-1. Bottom of the 8th for the Cardinals. McGee, Smith, and Herr will be the batters.
Kind of characterizes Kansas City attack, though. Even in the 6-1 victory, they could have scored 9-10 runs very easily.
1-2 the count. Jackson has struck out 3 times tonight. 5 consecutive strikeouts in the series, so he too goes into the record books with a K here. And he shatters his bat, bounces it behind second. Ozzie Smith comes up throwing, and it gets by Clark. If you can believe that, 1 run will score, and stopping at third is Biancalana. And of all things, Ozzie Smith throws one away. Boy, has this been a crazy inning. It's 5-1.
Well, this may go as a base hit and no RBI for Danny Jackson. Ozzie throws it short, a little in between hop. That's a tough play for Clark.
He had to throw it over her, too.
That's right. But if he does get a base hit on that, it'll only be the 2nd hit for the American League pitchers since the pitchers have had to bat. The other one by Tim Stoddard back in 1979.
And it's scored as an error, so Stoddard, you're still alone.
Scratch that one, huh?
E6 as Lonnie Smith fouls it back. So 4 of the 5 Royals have reached in the inning. And it takes all 4 to produce a run. Runners at first and third. Smith has been aboard 3 times tonight. 2 for 3. Good fastball. 0-2.
I think Ozzie Smith got an error on that play because his standards are so high.
You're right. Reputation precedes you.
Exactly.
And he scores knowing Smith makes that play 95% of the time. Put up the E6. Still 0-2.
Another thing is the scorer never had to go running towards right field and make a throw back to first base, which is what Ozzie Smith had to do. It's real tough to get a whole lot on that throw. And again, he was just past the dirt. Not an easy play.
Outside, you know, that is a huge run in a way. That's a huge run in this sense. It's a 4-run lead instead of a 3-run lead. It gives Hauser that little extra cushion. In other words, if Jackson with a 4-1 lead puts 2 men on base, boy, you're right to the edge with a tying run. Now you have that 1 extra base runner you can afford. And Lonnie Smith struck out in the top of the 8th inning. 15 Royals have gone down on K's, but they lead 5-1. Goes along with Jim Palmer and Tim McCarver at Busch Stadium, St. Louis. The crowd trying to get the Cardinals started. And it's a good man to do it if they're going to come back. Willie McGee, the top of the order, then Smith and Her. McGee 2 for 3 tonight against Danny Jackson, who has just been brilliant in postseason. 5-1 Kansas City as they try to extend it to a 6th game. Swing and a miss. Let's get a comment from Reggie Jackson. What do you think, Reg?
I don't know what it is, Al, but Kansas City seems to sure play quite well when they're an underdog. They're down 3-1, just like they were in the National League playoffs. And again, the same guy happens to be on the pitching mound, Danny Jackson. And again, he's coming up with a pitching gem. He's pitched 7 innings tonight. And again, he's come up with only allowing St. Louis 4 hits. So they're doing the job that's necessary. 15 strikeouts in this ball game by the Royals. And the thing about it is I'm not in the game.
One Jackson talking about the other, though.
You know, just describing George Brett, he makes me proud to be a Major League Baseball player with the effort that he put on that pop foul ball. You see him slide in the dugout, and it's just really nice to see a guy express what it's all about to play in a World Series, and to see a guy show people that I don't care how much you pay me, I don't care how long the contract is, I'm going to give it all I got all the time.
Well said. 1-2 pitch is inside. You know, a lot of things in World Series history go into your visual memory bank. We can see Reggie's swing in New York, the 3 home runs that night, and certain plays always come to mind, and I'm sure in the memory bank of a few million will be Brett's slide into the dugout tonight. 2-2 pitch. Got him swinging. Danny Jackson went a total of 6 innings with 1 strikeout, and all of a sudden, talk about cranking it up, he has struck out the last 4.
Again, 2 strikes. Look at the slider. A little bit off the plate. Ties McGee totally up. And what he's been able to do all night, number 1, throw 93 miles per hour, but get the ball in on the Cardinal right-handers.
Ozzie Smith is 1 for 15 in the World Series. 5-1 Kansas City. 1 out, bases empty in the bottom of the 8th inning. 1-0 the count.
I think Jim Palmer put it right on the head. He reminds me as much as Ron Guidry, as anybody in baseball. Not too many National League pitchers like him. Not too many left-handers pitch right-handed hitters consistently inside. And as Jim said earlier, once he starts to master the outside corner, that's when he goes from a thrower to a pitcher.
He's been a pitcher tonight. I will say that, yeah.
He's got great stuff.
In the air to center field. Wilson was playing shallow, and he goes back, and remember 54? Ozzie Smith has just played Vic Wertz. Not quite the same style, not quite the same situation, obviously, but what were we all thinking is Willie's going back right here.
Maybe it's the artificial surface Willie Mays that we're seeing.
Yeah.
Deja vu. Mays made the catch in the Polo Grounds off of Vic Wertz, and it's referred to as simply the catch.
Yep. And we're not trying to say that that will be remembered along with Mays',
Right.
but when the ball's hit over a center fielder's head in the World Series, I think we all think of one play. I suppose it takes a guy named Willie to make it, doesn't it? 2 out and the base is empty, and Tommy Herr with a count 1-0. How about Ozzie Smith cranking it up again?
Just another example why Willie Wilson can play so shallow. Most managers want their outfielders to play deep because they usually come in better than they go back. Willie Wilson, one of the few guys that literally seems to outrun the baseball.
3-0 the count, so 2 out and the base is empty. Danny Jackson has been rolling. He's retired 9 in a row. Down by 4. Tommy Herr will be taking this pitch, and the count is 3-1. 104 pitches, not that many for a guy with 2 out in the 8th inning. Down to short, Biancalana retires her. 10 straight set down, and we're 3 outs away from heading west. 5-1 onto the ninth. And here is Willie Wilson, who made the scintillating play in the bottom of the 8th inning, starting the 9th. 2 for 4. Wilson's had a good offensive series, and Willie had a little something to prove, even though he didn't make a big deal of it. But he had that horrible series in 1980 with all the strikeouts. He had a good one thus far in 85. He had a total of 12 that year. Grounded down to Clark. 1 away. Well, it'll be tough to get over that barbed wire.
That might have a flip side. Only kidding.
Here is Brett. 0 for 3 tonight. And they walked him intentionally in his other appearance. In the bottom of the 9th inning, Clark, Landrum, and Cedeno coming up for St. Louis, the 4, 5, and 6 hitters. Inside. So the pattern continuing for Kansas City. The playoffs: lose 2, win 1, lose game 4, win 3 straight. Ditto the World Series to this point. Grounded into right field for a base hit. So maybe some concern about his vision as they applied that fluid early on, but he appeared to see that one, even though he is blinking as he reaches first base.
Try to throw the ball by him, up and in. Not that easy to do. George a little bit too quick, just wraps it into right field.
Now White, who had a great third game here on Tuesday night. Tonight he has grounded out and then struck out 3 times. His ground out, though, did produce a run in the first inning, getting Lonnie home from third. 0-1.
From an offensive standpoint, when you go back to that third game, George Brett got on base 5 times. Tonight, 1 for 4. You still have 5 runs on the board. If you do go on to win, it's got to give your offense a boost to know that you scored at least 5 runs and George didn't have a lot to do with it.
0-2 the count.
Tim, I look at Jeff Lottie and I see that you really can see why maybe in 22 save situations came up with 19 saves. Looks like he's got the excellent slider, keeps the ball down. You talked about leading the National League in double play grounders.
Yeah, a lot of the Cardinal pitchers are not alike. They used to have 4 starters here back in the late 70s, and they all threw things almost alike.
That's grounded. Great stop by Pendleton. The second one. The first not in time. Terry's been quiet for a couple of games defensively, but that brings back a few memories of the way he's played in postseason. Terry Pendleton quietly having himself quite a World Series.
Take a look at the Houdini of the hot corner. That's what they call him here in St. Louis. Can't make much better a play. No chance for the double play with White's speed. You can't play third base on AstroTurf without good reflexes. You talked about that in Game 2. There's a perfect example. I remember when Dick Allen, like I said, moved him to third base, and he said that's all it is down there. It's reflexes. That hitting about 34 home runs a year.
Here is Sheridan. And he hits it to left field and deep and over the head of Landrum, and he can't make the play, and it bounces off the fence. A break there for the Royals, otherwise it would have been a ground rule double, and White comes in to score. That's a nice little break for Kansas City, because if that ball skips about 2 feet higher, White stops at third. And a group in from Western Missouri appreciative of that extra run. 6-1, and Whitey Herzog is looking at a trip back home, one way or another.
I guess Kansas City's thinking it's about time some of the bounces start going our way. They did in the first 3 games. Watch this, it hits right on the top of the fence. Hits the yellow line, I believe. Right in the middle of the yellow line. And bounces back. Had that ball gone over, of course, Frank White stops at third base. 6-1 Royals.
Balboni takes outside. So Kansas City a winner by a score of 6-1. In fact, in Game 3, trying to make it 2 out of 3 at Busch Stadium. And Balboni hits a soft little grounder to third. Pendleton charges, throws, and gets it. But the Royals get some more insurance. Jackson will take them out with a 5-run lead. Well, they're going to take Brett out and put Greg Pryor in at third base. It's his first appearance in the World Series. There's George, still in the dugout. So the Royals defensively, with Brett still blinking and now closing his eyes, and that appears to be the after effects of that slide into the dugout. Casey defensively with Jackson and Sundberg, the infield of Balboni, White, Biancalana, and Pryor. The outfield of Lynn Jones in left, Willie Wilson in center, Pat Sheridan in right. So now it's Clark in the bottom of the 9th inning. Outside. Jackson has faced only 6 over the minimum. One and one.
We are seeing our 3rd straight virtuoso performance by pitchers. Saberhagen on Tuesday night, last night, John Tudor, Danny Jackson tonight. Hard to be much better than the last 3 we've seen.
They'll test Pryor early, and he throws him out. Pryor is a fella playing in the World Series for the first time who last year as a utility man, a lot of the Royals said, was their MVP. Remember, Brett was hurt a lot and he kept filling in all over the field, and they won the West last year in good measure thanks to Pryor. Jackson has retired 11 in a row. This is very reminiscent of his performance in Game 5 of the playoffs. Landrum on a check swing, fouling it at the plate. He got very strong at the end, too, against Toronto. Remember, he got into trouble in the 6th inning at the bases loaded and 2 out in Game 5, and he got Ernie Witt to ground out, and he retired the side in order the rest of the way, so he retired the last 10 in that game. Here, the only trouble he had was early, up high. That is Danny Jackson's wife, Jody, watching her husband respond to the pressure with it back to the wall. Swing and a miss, and the count 1-2 with Cedeno on deck. Boy, if you're Hauser, and there's Cesar, Saberhagen, Jackson, little chopper toward third. This is going to be a tough play, and no play. Pryor had no chance, and so Landrum squibs a single. First time Tito's been on tonight. First Cardinal base runner since the 6th inning when Smith got on Brett Terry.
And a base hit all the way for Tito Landrum. He runs well. Greg Pryor does the best he can. know, realistically, Al, when the Kansas City Royals came in here to Busch Stadium, they realized that the Cardinals have not been swept in a series this year at Busch Stadium. So realistically, they've won 2 of 3. They can't expect much better than that. Of course, a pivotal game right now, game 2, when Lebrand had the bases loaded with 2 out, Pendleton up, and he hit the double in Kansas City the other night. But realistically, they've done as well as they could in this ballpark.
Out of 3, at least send it home. And now, all of a sudden, after that infield single, the gregariousness and ebullience that Jackson's wife exhibited just a few moments ago turns around.
Well, obviously, she's seen some other games because you just don't know what's going to happen.
Well, a 5-run lead, and I'll tell you one thing, he's not going to be in there when any tying run gets to the plate.
Well, as that graphic showed last night, no team in the history of the World Series down by 3 or more runs has ever come back. Cardinals are down by 5.
1-0 is up high. The Royals are able to play their infield at normal depth. They're just conceding a base to Landrum if he wants it. As you can see, they're not going to hold him on.
There's a point to be made is when you look at Charlie Lebrand. Of course, he gets in the 9th inning. He's got a 2-hitter going. Ends up losing 4-2. So you never know what might happen.
Well, Jackson tonight has walked 2. He has struck out 5, and 4 of them came in succession. And in the bullpen, they stir around, and the quiz gets up. There's Dan. Fouled away, and the count 2 balls and 2 strikes.
Situation where at first base Steve Balboni is well back. Tito Landrum can go anytime, really stay out of a double play. I don't know if that's the kind of move you do. They're almost giving him the second base.
Cedeno hits a high fly ball to center field. Willie Wilson and Sheridan, and it's Sheridan making the catch. And there are 2 down with Landrum at first base. So the Cards are down to their final out. I suppose there'll be sort of a mixed response by the crowd at the end of the game after the initial sort of sigh or whatever. I would imagine they would give the Cardinals, or at least some of them here, a pretty good ovation, in as much as this is the end of the season at Busch Stadium, one way or another. May not have ended the way they want it, but great fans here in St. Louis. They've always been appreciative of good baseball, and the Cardinals have given them a terrific season. Pendleton is 0 for 3. One and 0 the count. So a 6th game looms, 8 o'clock Eastern time at Royal Stadium. And then, as we say, if you go to a 7th, you've got Tudor and Saberhagen. 2-0 the count. Now 3-0 with Nieto on deck. Jackson has not walked a man since the 3rd inning. That was the inning the Cardinals left the bases loaded. 3-1.
You mentioned Game 7. If it does go to Game 7, Danny Jackson probably will get the first call in the bullpen if Saberhagen falters a bit.
He will have had 2 days rest by then. Landrum at first base. 3-1 the count. And ball 4. So first and second, a mild little stirring here in the bottom of the 9th inning, and Tom Nieto is the batter, 0 for 3. 122 pitches, 5-run lead for Kansas City.
And Al, your point about those tack-on runs in the 8th and 9th innings kind of come into play. It's a 4-1 ball game. Quisenberry may be in there, and the Cardinals would probably send up a power hitter, Van Slyke or somebody like that. Quisenberry's had trouble with left-handed hitters all year.
Singletons in the 8th and 9th have turned out to be mildly important at the moment. 1-0 the count.
If you're Danny Jackson, get 2 outs. The biggest thing that you have to worry about, number one, talking about the amount of pitches, as Jim Sundberg goes out to the mound, you don't want to overthrow. It's a situation you try to put yourself in all night. When you get there, a game of 27 outs, we've talked about that before, you have a tendency maybe to get a little bit outside yourself. And instead of pitching, you start throwing.
So Danny Jackson trying to wrap it up, trying to create a 6th game against Saturday night, 8 o'clock Eastern time. The starting time for Game 6. Charlie Leibrandt, so magnificent last Sunday, pitching against Danny Cox. A strike, and the count is 1-1. 1 ball and 1 strike the count. That's grounded down to short. Biancalana goes to White, and Kansas City, here we come again. Danny Jackson gave up a run in the first. Dick Hauser watches his team take 2 out of 3 here. And this series may be just heating up. Royal Stadium will be the scene on Saturday, and we'll be back to Busch in a moment. Cardinals now lead the series 3-2, and let's join Reggie Jackson.
Thank you very much, Al. A superb performance from Danny Jackson, my namesake. Danny, in the National League playoffs, in the American League playoffs, your team was down 3-1. You came up with a superb performance. And tonight, the same thing. Same thing in the first game of the World Series. Ever since you pitched against the Angels the last week of the season, you've been in a great groove.
Well, I've had a good groove that I would like to be in when I'm pitching, and I think I concentrate a little bit more when the pressure's on us and we're got our backs to the wall. I try to concentrate a lot harder and get the pitches where I want to.
If you get to the 7th game, will you be in the bullpen?
I probably will be in the bullpen in the 7th game, and I'll be ready to go whenever they call on me.
Great effort. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Reggie.
George, I said earlier during the ball game, during the telecast, when you dove into the dugout, you made me proud to be a Major League Baseball player.
Well, that's the way I play. I was surprised I slid that far. When Lee May tried to catch me, poked him in the eye, and I got a little blurry after a while, and that's why it took me out of the ball game. But, you do it, I do it, a lot of players do it, and especially in a World Series when you're a dog like we are and this game is so important to us, you put every effort you got into it. And even though I didn't catch the ball, it got everybody pumped up, I think.
I know that the Royals have told you to take it easy and not play quite as hard as you have been in the past for fear of you getting hurt. How does your eye feel?
My eye feels good. That really comes into concern, I think, with the Royals breaking up double plays. I used to get a big kick out of not hurting second baseman, but sliding in real hard and trying to intimidate him. I don't do that anymore, Reg. I don't do it, and I've played 156 ball games this year.
Why do you guys play so well when you have to win a ball game?
Character, I guess. It's hard to explain. That question's been asked so many times so far, and being down to you guys throughout the regular season, coming back, beating you the last week of the season, being down 3-1 to Toronto, and getting pitching performances like that from Danny Jackson helps tremendously. But I just think everybody's real poised. We were real comfortable before the game today, and we knew what we had to do, and it seems like every day our backs are up against the wall, the better we play.
Thank you very much, George. Let's go back to Al.
All right, thank you, Reggie. 6-1 is the final score, and so Game 6 comes your way with Leibrandt facing Cox at 8 o'clock Eastern time on Saturday night from Royal Stadium. And we'll be back to wrap it up from Busch Stadium in a moment. Our warmest thanks to Alan Roth, Steve Hurt for a great job. As you look at the final score again, Kansas City 6 and St. Louis